This meeting is being recorded by SMAC for future broadcasting. Please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much.
Let's have the kids do with us.
I feel like they need to be here every time for the Pledge of Allegiance. Perfect. Okay, at this point we have public comment. Has anyone signed up for public comment? No. Okay, awesome. Oh, not awesome, but great. And our student advisory representative was unable to make it tonight, so we're going to go straight to district celebrations. Dr. Baeta?
Yeah, so we just went through every single year we try to celebrate our staff, and we celebrate our teachers in May, and our admin assistants, custodians, paraprofessionals, and I think I just wanted to take a 30-second just to really thank the work that our folks are doing for kids and for the town of Stoughton. And, you know, we can't give out big prizes. We thank our parent organizations who are very kind with celebrating our staff. And we send out our notice saying thank you for your work. And I think sometimes you're just not able to get to every single person and say thank you for what you do. So I wanted to take the time on behalf of the administration, and I believe the school committee as well, to just say thank you for choosing Stoughton and working here. Thank you for doing all the things that you do, including all those extra things that you do. And in this day and age with so much going on, this is really a cool place to work. It's a lot of fun through the good days and the bad days, the hard days. But the most important thing is we're trying to do good things for kids, and I want to thank all of our Stoughton Public School employees for their work that they've done during this school year. Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome. And I agree. Excellent. We wanted to recognize the Stoughton High School Tuesday Jazz Band.
You can have that one if you'd like.
Okay. Yep, absolutely. So the Tuesday Jazz Band was invited to compete at the state level, and then they were also invited to perform at the Half Shell. So we wanted to recognize the jazz band. That's not something that's offered to just any school musical group. It's quite an achievement, and I know the parents captured, and I believe Mr. Pickett documented in pictures the band members performing in the half shell, and a lot of very proud parents in the audience. So we just wanted to recognize that. The 2025 Hockomock League Scholar Athletes.
Yeah, so Leah McCarty and Sophia Iser have both been recognized by the Hockomock League as scholar athletes. This is not only because of their athletic ability, but it's also their academic ability. And we have a little something coming for them in the mail. It just hasn't gotten here yet, but it's coming, and I'll get it to you as soon as it comes in.
Perfect, thank you. And then finally, the Superintendent's Excellence Award.
Yeah, I want to thank the work of the high school administration and staff. The Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents that I belong to, thank you, the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents that I am a member of, recognizes through the superintendents students for their excellence. And this is to students who are considered leaders, do well in school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's never easy to pick one student, right? Because we think we have a lot of students, but it's always great to recognize that students. So this evening, the Superintendent's Excellence Award goes to Sophia Iser. She is considered an outstanding member of the class of 2025. I just met her outside, by the way, on the way in. Sophia's academic achievement, I place her among the top 10 in her class. Among her many academic achievements, she has made honor roll each school year, has taken and is earning the highest of grades in 8 advanced placement classes. 8.
Crazy.
8.
Crazy.
8. Slacker. Included but not limited to AP Psych. I used to teach that. AP Chemistry, AP Environmental, AP A and B Calculus, never did, and AP Government. I probably would have done all right in that one. I'm just shocked by 8. Sophia is a hardworking, driven, and involved member of the Stoughton community. She's the president of the National English Honor Society, a community service coordinator for National Honor Society, and a member of Student Council and the Best Buddies Club. Sophia has also been a 3-sport athlete for all 4 years of high school, playing field hockey, ice hockey, and outdoor track as a senior. Outside of school, Sophia volunteers at the School Council of Aging, the Stoughton Council of Aging, delivering meals to the elderly residents, and at her church, helping with youth events and fundraisers. Sophia is attending Northeastern University and majoring in health sciences. She hopes to pursue a career in the medical field and work with children in developing countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 Stoughton Superintendent's Academic Excellence Award to Sophia Isa.
Go Huskies.
Want to come up for a quick one? Sure. And then we'll have you guys come up as well for a quick picture.
Thanks so much.
Nope. Great. Great. Awesome. And then we'll have the family come up in front. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Did you guys finish tennis today? Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. We'll do one with me, and then I'll drop out so we can do a family picture. They don't want me in their family picture. Here you go. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
8. Can I say that again? 8 APs. And they're probably going to be all 4s and 5s. Oh. a lot of pressure. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
I have an addition to the celebrations, and you were supposed to be there, but there was a Hall of Fame inductees, and so for the Stoughton Athletics, there was Carol Savino, Kevin Connolly, Dave Barbado, Ryan Lacasse, Andrea Chica, and Charlie Green, that were all celebrated as Hall of Fame inductees for Stoughton. And I would like to thank our athletic director, Robin Ireland, for attending, and our softball coaching staff was also there attending, so I wanted to make sure that they also got recognized.
Oh, beautiful, thank you. Great. Our next agenda item, we have 2 presentations on our agenda. The first one is from the Hanson Student Council.
You guys can go right over there.
Okay, thank you very much for having us. I'm Christine Feeney. Oh, this one or two. I'm Christine Feeney. I'm the principal of the Hanson.
I'm Miley Santos.
I'm Jackie Harrison. I'm one of the advisors.
I'm Savannah Gonzalez, and I'm the secretary.
I'm Teddy Criscolo and
Classroom representative.
classroom representative.
I am Maeve Gillis, and I am the president of our school.
I'm Ellie Rake, and I'm the assistant principal.
All right, do we have our slideshow?
Yep.
Thank you.
Oh.
Do you have your phone?
We'll just keep going. We'll show that slide at the end.
All right.
Send it to me, though. Don't send it.
Okay, I sent it to Kathy.
Doesn't have access.
I know. I'm sad.
This is the second time today that I haven't gotten access.
So will you just keep going into
All
the
right.
overview? Yeah, because there was only one thing on there. So we're just going to talk about how this all started. And actually, Ms. Harrison started it.
All right, so the process starts at the beginning of every year. We have a new group of students. In September, we send out a flyer to all, it's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. So we send out a flyer to all of the students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, just explaining what student council is. We're looking for leaders to lead the school, to come up with ideas for activities, and we usually do one fundraiser, and we donate that to a charity that the students vote on. Once that letter goes out, and then we have, it's an assembly, I call it an assembly because we announced that we're going to have an informational meeting. Anyone who's interested is welcome to join us in the cafeteria. And every year we have all of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade there. Lots of questions, and then we hand out applications. Every 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classroom has 2 representatives. So from that point, the students fill out the application, they campaign. We had some pictures of like posters, and then they have election in the classroom for 2 representatives. And then there it is. All right. So if you go up to slideshow, yeah. All right, and that's the group of them. We have 14 this year. We have 2 from each classroom. All of the students represent their own classroom, but then they represent kindergarten through 2nd grade. So anything that we're doing, they go into the classrooms, and that's the classrooms that they're responsible for. So most of the representatives have 2 to 3 classrooms. If we could fast forward. This is the flyer that goes out with what the Helen H. Hansen Student Council is. We can keep going. And that's Miss Angelo's and myself. We can go quickly past that one.
I put that on. Thank you.
So this is where, those are some of the posters that the students make for the in-class voting. And then we have an election in November for the 4 officers. So any of the students who are interested in running, and it's 4th and 5th graders, and the president has to be a 5th grader. They campaign. Again, they make posters, they do a speech. If you go to if you click on the bottom, they want to show you their speeches. There it is. Here is...
We're going to preface, it was Spirit Day. There were pajamas, there were hats. I was like...
Problem with this video.
Oh, what is
I think
happening?
you download it. It'll... Come on.
So we have a number...
It's 3 minutes. It'll be fast now.
A number of
It'll
students
go.
that were running for...
There you go.
Going.
Just tap the TV gently on the side. It'll go.
Hi, my name is Michael Costello. I'm running for president of Student Council. I'm a great candidate because I'm always nice to everyone and I'm a good role model for younger students. I'm a good leader, I'm smart, I'm trustworthy, and will take this job seriously. Last and certainly not least, I follow the golden rule, which is treat others how you would like to be treated. Those are my qualities for president of Student Council, and thank you for your vote. Hi, my name is Tristan Davis. I'm running for president of Student Council. I feel like that I should be president because I'm kind and I help others at their lowest moment. I am all ears when it comes to everyone's suggestion. I feel like I would be a good leader for the school. I'm excited to do this job. Thank you for your... Hi, my name is Nate Gillis. I am running for president. I will be a great candidate because I will make more projects to help us improve our school. I will help us get more school supplies. Other reason is I will help us do more field trips and more races. Thank you for your vote. Hi, my name is Mary Santos. I am running for vice president. I would be a great candidate because I work well with others. Also, I like to work with people and I like to play with games. Another reason is that I am a role model student that listens to my peers. Finally, I am good at being organized and I am able to style
Yeah, we can stop it. It's so low. I don't know. Sorry. I'm not sure why it's so low. But they show these to the whole school during lunch block. So as kind of a preview of what they'll do for them if they get the vote. So they're out campaigning. And the day of voting, we actually put all the kids' pictures up there so that they know who that they most wanted to vote for.
So if you go to the next slide, that'll show...
You can see the voting.
Yeah, so this is election day. And as you can see, it's set up like an election in town, if you were, and that's the ballot. Kindergarten and 1st grade have their elections in the classroom. We've tried it, everyone in the cafeteria, and it hasn't worked out. But 2nd through 5th, this is how we do it. And then if you go to the next slide...
It's pretty legit.
Oh. Next slide.
Those are the winners for this year. This was everyone who won this
All
year.
right. I thought there was another election one.
Okay. and
Oh,
now-
all right. So who's
next?
doing this one?
We do monthly activities with different classrooms depending on how many you have. All student council representatives have 2 or 3 classrooms they are responsible for. Every month, we go into the classroom to do activities. Some of the activities this year are playing Would You Rather, making positive flowers, or reading a story, and playing games. Playing a game with the classroom, and those are what we do during monthly activities that we do with different classrooms. For morning announcements, each morning the student council leads the entire community in the morning announcement. This is virtual meeting where we announce the lunch choice, recite the Pledge of Allegiance, share character strong daily character highlights, announce birthdays, and call students down for their birthday books. Each Friday, our math coach announces the winner of the Brain Buster and explains how to answer this tricky math question. Mrs. Cafidi also announces the weekly kindness winner of the book machine winner. Now I'm going to be talking about the food drive. Each year, our Helen H. Hansen Student Council leads a food drive to support their local food pantry. We collect items that the pantry needs to support.
And next, there we go.
Every February we do a heart sale. This is how we make money to donate to charity. We make a lot of hearts and students buy them for their friends and family.
Kindergarten.
I'm sorry. Kindergarten and grade 1 buy them at the end of the day, and grades 2 and 5 buy them during lunch periods. This year we are donating to a local animal shelter.
Next, please.
I'm going to be talking about the playground that we're making. We are very close to getting our new playground. Construction is scheduled to begin this summer. We are so grateful to the town of Stoughton for helping make this happen. Student Council played a very big part by giving input on what our new playground should include, as well as picking out 6 colors schemes for our community to vote on. Thank you for having us. Have a Hawkstar night.
Well done, ladies.
Great job, everybody.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Oh my God, how can you stand all that cuteness?
Do the other elementary schools have student council like that, or is Hanson the only one?
No, they all have.
They all do.
They have student government leadership, yeah.
Yep, yep. Yeah.
I just gotta find out when the,
Where Rachel's presentation is, or, okay.
I hate it when this is like that.
So speaking of following that, we now have a presentation from the Climate Action Committee. So if you want to go ahead and take a seat up at the top there. Make a note for next time.
Hello, I'm Molly Cochran. I'm chair of the Climate Action Plan Committee.
I'm Rachel Lazarus. I'm the secretary of the Climate Action Plan Committee.
Can one of you give me access to your Google Drive?
Oh my
For
gosh.
the presentation, right? So I just sent it right to I'll do a request access, and then you can just send it to me.
And Rachel, don't forget yours.
Well, you know what it is,
yes.
we're very reluctant to put out some of the PowerPoints prior to the presentations being done, because we want to make sure that who's ever providing the presentation has that first step, so it's always.
I'll go ahead and just give some background as Rachel's getting that set up. The town, I brought forward an article it was 2 years ago in May before town meeting, and then to form a Climate Action Plan Committee for the purposes of drafting a climate action plan for the entire town, which would include the schools and the operations of the schools. We have since then been working diligently on the plan and promoting awareness and trying to meet with various stakeholders in town. We did meet about a year ago with the school committee, and I know some of you are new and some of you were here before, but I just wanted to give that introduction. We eventually got a grant awarded and have now the help of MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, which has drafted a number of climate action plans for a number of towns in Massachusetts. We are working with them on continuous community engagement and also, talking about the issues, talking about ideas, talking what might be workable for the town and for the schools. And also, they have developed a list now, quite a large and comprehensive and maybe a little daunting list of potential strategies to put on our plan. We're going to be working on those, winnowing it down, sort of testing some of those ideas and strategies. And the current timeline is to have a plan drafted and finalized by either the end of December or January. And then MAPC is going to stay along for another couple of months or a few months to choose one of those items in the plan to help us actually implement it. So clearly the issue here is implementation as well as having a lot of ideas. But the general point of a climate action plan is to certainly acknowledge the reality and the urgency of climate change, how it's going to affecting us right now, certainly going to dramatically affect the future of our children, which is, of course, why we're all here, because we care about the future of our children. And the objectives are to engage in mitigation strategies, which means ways we can actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which are causing climate change, and ways we can get less and less reliant on fossil fuels, turn to alternative energy sources, clean energy sources, and at the same time to try to be resilient to the challenges and the extreme weather events, which are likely to happen with the existing problem with too many greenhouse gases and the existing events that are unfolding for climate change. You don't have to pay too much attention to the either national news or the world news to see, very unexpected, very damaging events that are happening, and they usually cause, when these things happen, in addition to the loss of life, sometimes billions of dollars of damages here, billions of dollars damages there. So we think it's smart to try to be as proactive and responsive as possible and maybe invest some of our resources and our attention and our focus on climate action. And I know that when we met, just very briefly turn it over to Rachel, who's going to take it from here. When we met last year, I think we left with 3 big ideas, and they were general ideas, which would be the school would be engaged in recycling, which I think DEP is expecting the school to be recycling, the school district, that the school would investigate composting with its cafeterias, which Black Earth Compost, which is a for-profit composting operation in Massachusetts, works with towns, but also works with some school districts and takes their compost, which are, the kitchen scraps, the fruit and vegetable scraps and things of that nature. And the third thing was to just be aware of and hopefully continue to develop curriculum, which is age appropriate, about sustainability, about climate change, about, clean energy and things of that nature, so that, when students are released into the world, they're like well versed in the issues, and they themselves are hopefully aware and ready to adapt to practices and habits and things that might help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and be aware. So, and then very, very happy to have on our wonderful committee Rachel, who is an endlessly energetic person who does unbelievably depths of research, and she always knows how to follow through. So I'm very happy to have her talk with some ideas that have been percolating concerning the schools and a climate action plan.
So first of all, Dr. Beata, where did you send the request to?
You can send it to my email.
No,
Where
which
did you
email
request
did you send
access?
it to?
Oh.
Is my problem.
It goes to whoever sent, where the document
Yeah,
originated.
I didn't send the drive, and I don't know what address it's sent to. I have, if you put me on, if you could give me the Wi-Fi password, I could cast from my Chromebook here, but otherwise it is in there. So I just wanted
Did
to.
you send it just via link to your,
I-
maybe
Send it as
attachment?
Yeah, you can do it as an attachment email to me.
Okay, I can do that. 1 second, because I actually had just
That'd be the
downloaded them
quickest
all.
way to do it.
Yeah.
Molly, please spell for me for a second.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And first of all, thank you for putting us on your agenda and giving us your time and attention. I know you're very busy. And I also would like to comment that having sat down with the architects with respect to the new South School project, very, very happy to see that that is going to be a very sustainable building. And it's going to be very sort of cutting edge on, consciousness of, it was the materials, it was the heating source, it was everything. So which I'm sure is what MSBA wants to support. So I'm really happy. And I think that alone, in closing down the other schools, like we're going to lower our carbon footprint just by this new wonderful school that's going to be built.
I just sent, it may take a little moment, but, so what I have, it just says that it's sent. So it'll take a moment because there are PDFs. But basically what I wanted to bring to you is that microphone. I am not loud enough on my own.
It's being recorded for SMAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. So I just wanted to say that there are a lot of programs that offer different ways for us to make or to help transfer the schools over to being more green. I wanted to just quickly highlight in our interim recommendations, the ones that we wanted to make for the school again, is that we wanted to kind of get on. We wanted to have a comprehensive plan regarding town-wide recycling and composting. So we want to, I know that the schools and the town can kind of be like two different fiefdoms, and it will be more cost-effective and probably easier if we can get on the same page for all of this. What I have found is just from a couple of the strategies, there is a program called the Green Team from the Department of, from Massachusetts, DEP, where they will literally bring recycling and composting equipment to the schools. We just need to register. Anyone involved with the schools can register. So I'm in the, I'm doing Green Team Recycling down there, a little further down, on the second row, first one. And so it is, you just have to register, and someone from the school has to register. It could be the superintendent, it could be the principal of schools, it could be the PTA, and they will provide recycling and compost bins and the worms as well. So that, and they will also provide educational plans for and lessons for the students to really know what this is doing, how this is going, why do we compost, what is the effect of it, why is this so important? And the other, the Green Team also, in another strategy, they do idling reduction signs, which is a topic I brought to the CAP committee and pushed for because it is actually against state law for us to idle our cars for longer than 5 minutes. It's also bad for your cars since we're not, most of us aren't, at least, driving cars from the 1970s where you damage your engine if you have it run, where if you turn it off too quickly. Actually, most cars are designed nowadays that it is better to turn them off when you don't need them. It helps make your battery live longer, and it reduces the air pollution. I feel so bad for our principal when he is breathing in the fumes for so long while he's directing the kids' traffic. And so I know I've talked to the recycling team about this, and they are at the high school, they are excited about this. These are also projects that can go on at the elementary school. I know Gibbons, where my children go, there are parents, there are members of the PTA who are really, really excited about getting to do something. So it would be not just a really tactile educational experience. It is also the way to really drive home. We're practicing what we preach. We really want recycling in our towns. We really want to be doing all of this. There are a couple.
Can I just interject? I'm sure everybody's aware that our town has gone from biweekly recycling to weekly pickup recycling, which makes it so much easier for everybody. You don't have to remember what week it is, and hopefully it's going to really improve our town's recycling rate, which is not terribly great.
And also, and to jump on that point, a lot of the times people aren't recycling because they don't have access. People would recycle if they had bins in the room, and now we can get the bins for free. So why not? It is difficult when you don't, like, one of the things that Vaughn Enochian was saying is that people just had too much recycling going up in their houses. They couldn't wait the 2 weeks to have the recycling truck come around. So what I want to do is reduce the barriers for implementation to make sure that everyone has a chance. There are some other programs. The Plastic-Free Restaurant School Subsidy is a really cool program where they will actually pay for replacing plastic single-use trays and such with ones that can be reused. I know that it's a little more complicated than that, but we can do that. And also,
because one of our neighboring towns is doing that. I was on a webinar with them, whether it was Norwood or somebody like that, but we could follow up and talk with them about specifically. They'd started off with a pilot project with one school.
And again, like, this is, you can do a pilot program with one of the elementary schools. You could do it, you could start it today. I would love to have something in place for the 2026-27 year.
What kind of stuff for the plastic program would they do for, like, let's say we tested on an elementary school, what kind of stuff would they change?
So they will, they have a list of things that they subsidize, and that can't be reached right now. They can't, I am sorry that I don't have that right with me. It was not on that, but there is a list of pre-approved reusable items and their vendors that is like trays, forks, spoons, cups, plates, and you can also request product samples from the vendors as well. And again, they are willing to pay for this at schools as long as it's not, we have to do this because as long as it's being done voluntarily, not because the government has suddenly banned it in some way. So they are, again, helping to bridge that gap that we do. And finally, I just wanted to mention, Molly mentioned MAPC, who are our partners in the Climate Action Plan. They had several different suggestions that are specifically for schools. Some of these are ones that I think would be great for Stoughton. I wouldn't presume to tell you what you should do on this list, but I would love to hear from you if any of the recommendations, developing and implementing a plan to expand pedestrian access, reduce emissions from the school buses, adopt climate-smart parking policies, create the pilot composting program, and also just kind of like working with the school district on policies for addressing extreme heat and air quality in schools. We want to work with you. We want to make this as easy as possible and as cost-effective as possible to make changes, and we're here for you, basically.
Right, and the hope as we're going through the beginning of the drafting process and then narrowing down is really to get feedback, share some ideas. Rachel's talked about a few ideas. We could certainly follow up in more detail about those ideas when we meet more at the MAPC and just get feedback about, well, this one sounds interesting. Let's talk to somebody who's done it in another town. This one, there's barriers with this one or whatever. And it's not like we expect everything to be adopted all at once across the town, and certainly not in the schools, but for people to sort of be open-minded about there's a better way to do things. And as I'm sure everybody knows, there's a solid waste crisis, which is that all the landfills are closing up in Massachusetts. I don't think anybody wants one built next to where they live or an incinerator built next to where they live. So we just sort of have to rethink our whole consumption and trash thing. And this is one of the places where it's an issue.
And if that is something, and like, don't bring up my day job here, but if I am researching this for the town. If there's a change going on with the town, that provides an opportunity for the school to work in tandem with them. And so, again, we want to hear what you want. All of the programs that I found, by the way, and that I listed to you, top-level Google search. I did not have to go into the weeds for any of this to find these programs. So I know that more exists that I did not find myself. And I would be very excited to do that research for you and provide the options.
You had a page on food waste. We didn't really discuss that at all. What type of programs did you find for that?
That is just how much we are throwing away. That isn't how to change that. Although I think what Recycling Works, which is another program of Mass DEP, would want is that to reduce food waste, composting is the obvious answer. That reduces the volume and it also reduces the weight. I'm not sure which one is more important when you're calculating the costs. But they gave me a wonderful, they're saying that that the whole school system is producing 1.46 tons of food waste each week. And school is 36 weeks out of the year. That is, SPS produced 52.56 tons of food waste in 2024-25. Some of these things that have been wasted are inedible but could go into the trash or could go into compost instead of the trash. Some of these things might be like food that was made but couldn't be distributed for some reason that could possibly be distributed to people in need. I know that there are rules around that as well, so I'm not saying that any of this is something I can solve right here with a laptop, but definitely I'd love to think in different directions with you guys in meeting these goals.
Well, we really appreciate the information, and thank you for taking the time to present to us. The format that we've been following recently is we gather information. If we have questions, if it's okay, that school committee members will submit those questions to you through the superintendent. He will then collect the responses and then and provide that information back to us so that we have the benefit of the FAQs, so to speak. It's important to note our purview as a school committee. Our authority extends to the school's budgets, the performance of the superintendent, and then the educational goals and policies of the district's public schools. So it's important just to keep that in mind. But if my fellow committee members allow, we can put this on for discussion once we solicit questions and answers, and we can discuss it and figure out how we want to move forward with this information.
And if it makes sense at any point in time to have somebody who wants to be a liaison with our committee, but obviously that's your procedure or whatever, just for communication back and forth and further depth of information, if that might work, that might, work for us as well.
Madam Chair, through you to our guests and the members. So a couple of different things. My colleague on the town side, the superintendent of Public Works, and I, Paul Jaffoon, have had some very, I would call 10,000 feet discussions. I just recently shared with him the copy of our trash contract as an example, something that hasn't been looked at in quite a while in terms of we are private, and also recycling. So those are the two topics that we've had discussions. Again, very 10,000 feet. We're just trying to find some time to schedule to chat. So that's one. The other is thank you for the lead on some of the freebies that are on this list. So we'll be putting together some. I've shared with others in the past that in my previous community, each of the schools had like their own little recycling club, right? And kids love that stuff because you might get out of class for 5 minutes one day earlier because you're doing the recycling bin.
And they do have one at the high school.
Yes. Yep. And so one of the goals is for us to get that going at least 7 of the 8 buildings. Here would be a little bit more difficult at the Jones because they're so young, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't be doing it a different way. Because I do think that the curriculum piece of this is actually doing the work. It's not really a sit down and listen work. It's literally, if you see trash, you pick it up, trash type of thing, right? You don't throw it down the water main on Main Street, your plastic bottle. You keep it, you crush it up, you put it in your bag, and then you throw it out. Hopefully recycling at home. The other part is the compost part is a little trickier. There's some Board of Health issues we probably have to have a discussion with in terms of location. I will tell you right now that the trash, the food goes into the trash. And I can tell you, because I've seen the pictures of some of our wild animals around the trash. So the idea of composting is a great idea. It's just a matter of who, when, how it's actually done. And I know that there's some school systems that are doing it and doing it pretty aggressively. And I think it's, Molly, I think to your comment, it's really about those little dribs and drabs of getting it started. I appreciate, trying to see if we can get something really more comprehensive for 26, 27. Maybe we can do some stuff in 25, 26, this upcoming school year. And then lastly, the school committee and I may need your support in capital items that we may have to do around composting, because it's not just composting. There's capital stuff that probably has to be done in terms of the creation of the area, the safety of the area, and as you know, we have a capital plan that should be done by the end of the summer. We would urge that if you folks have ideas that have costs to the capital plan, to share them with us, so we can put it into the capital plan if in fact it's going to go in that direction. So just some thoughts.
No, that's good. And I just wonder to what extent there's state support. I mean, the state is certainly on an individual and household level, has lots and lots and lots of money available to reduce carbon footprints. So I would not be surprised if there's something somewhere. I wonder if, I don't know if Kathy Stanley would be a resource on that. It's not quite, quote, energy manager, but
I will say the greenteam.org, I believe is the name of the website. I included the link. They are they are the part of the government working with the schools. Okay. I also can't say how long all of these programs will be available. Right now, things are getting very heavily subsidized because they want people to be making the change. As I told the select board, if we don't make the change, at some point changes will be forced upon us, and when those changes are forced upon us, it's going to be more expensive, and we're not going to like some of the things that people tell us to do necessarily. If we start now, while we have a choice, we can figure out what works for Stoughton, what works for each school, and we can really be leading the process.
Yeah, I don't want to put anybody in a negative way, but if we want to establish policy as a town and as a schools, and with all due respect to my bosses, the school committee and the select board need to get together to discuss that. That's the only way that the public buildings will be fully aligned. And I believe you noted earlier that that's probably the easiest way is to bring the fiefdoms together, to use your phrase. And I think, the school side, we have some educators that are very well known and have knowledge of these topics, but we don't have a traditional department, if you will, right? We have custodial department, and that means we need to put in policies, procedures, or food services policies and procedures that will have an impact and change over time. So just an FYI.
And I would be happy to do any research or provide information on any of the topics that come up. If I don't know about it already. I've been doing a lot of that for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for your time.
thank you for having us.
For having us.
Appreciate your consideration. And good to see everybody.
Next order of business is unfinished business, the non-resident employee program. Dr. Baeta, I believe you were going to get some additional information to us so that we could move forward with a decision.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Through to the membership, there is a memo for me dated the 20th of May on a couple of things. One, I was asked about the municipal side. We have not had anything since 24-15, and that really was an individual situation that took place. The program is available by your regular vote when this program started to all town employees. We just haven't had any. The program's fees haven't been raised since 2014, 2015. So we're coming up. So I have a recommendation to slightly make an increase of $1,800 per student for the 25-26 school year, with 2 installments, one by August 31st of $900 and one by January 31st of $900. That's the non-resident employee benefits program.
I recommend that we take these one at a time in terms of discussion. Is that okay with the committee members? Okay, perfect. Do we want to discuss opening up the program to all town employees? Is there any discussion or any additional questions to Dr. Baeta? Okay. Jillian, any discussion or questions? Okay. Karen, any discussion or questions? Are we ready to vote on?
I do have a question for
Okay, go
Dr.
for it.
Baeta.
Yeah.
Dr. Baeta, this $1,800, is this pretty equal? I mean, I know that you're talking about a new teaching contract coming up. I've been involved in that on both sides. So is that pretty equal to what all the other towns are doing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's an ebb and flow, right? So we have communities like Stoughton who don't do the school choice program. We do the employee benefits program. Then you have some school districts that do both, right? And so when you do that, that means that the school choice number comes in. That's a minimum of $5,000 per student from the state. So if your child goes to Brockton Public Schools, Brockton gets a $5,000 minimum, what's called school choice funds, and vice versa. We are not a school choice district, haven't been in the past. That's the reason why we have that call for a meeting next week, because we have a public meeting request. It's one vote that you folks take. And right now, with the ebb and flow of our enrollment, I do not see us recommending that we become a school choice district. We're just growing too fast right now. So it's in the ballpark, but everybody does it a little differently depending on what's happening. I do think that we'll have some further discussions about, but we are trying to do a benefit to our town employees when we do this.
Any other questions or discussion about expanding this to town employees? Seeing none, can I have a motion? The superintendent's recommendation is to continue the non-resident, wait. Sorry, I'm in the wrong place here. The recommendation is to open the program. Well, first of all, we have 3 votes really, because we need to vote to continue the program for our district employees, correct?
Yeah, so that would be, in this particular case, the program is actually called Non-Resident Employee Benefit Program. It does not have the word school in it originally.
Okay.
So you would be voting one vote that you're continuing the program at a fee of $1,800 a year.
Okay.
You do it all as one vote.
Okay. All right, if there's no other discussion or questions, can I have a motion to continue the school, the non-resident employee program for district employees at a rate of $1,800? Thank you. So that was made by Jen. Second? Thank you. All right, it was moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Aye. Aye. Okay, and motion carried 4-0. Documentation, perfect. All right, and now we are moving to the unfinished business of the school handbook updates. So just wanted to start with the high school student handbook. Wanted to know if there was any discussion or any additional questions from my committee members. You're good. Okay, excellent.
And these are all printed for public record, so that you know, so anybody can read your questions, see the response.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I would like to say that the procedure for this, did I say this? It has not been practice that, in the past ever, that questions get submitted to the superintendent and then get collated and then get distributed. That has not been the way that we've done it. Excuse me. That has not been the way that we've done it before. And I don't think that it's the best way to do it for transparency for the people who watch. If we have questions, then we can ask them here. If we want to continue with questions, we can submit them. But it shouldn't be the procedure that it's done. The procedure that it should done is they come up, they present. If the committee has questions, we're allowed to ask questions. We don't have to wait and write it down and send it to the superintendent and then wait for the next meeting. If there are questions that we have the ability as a committee to be able to ask. So I want to make clear that that's not the way that it has to be. And that's certainly not something that we as a committee ever voted to do.
No, I agree, and I thank you for bringing that up, because I was confused last time.
I know.
I do like if there is something that's intensive, that, you know, that there might be a lot of questions, that we hold off, just so that the meeting doesn't like run for hours upon hours.
That's the point.
And but then I can't write it down and kind of get my thoughts together. Some, like, specifically for this, I was able to jot down notes as people talked, and then I was able to sit down with my notes, then really sit down and formulate questions. And I appreciated that time that I got. But at the same time, I had questions right then and there that I didn't know if I could ask or not. So I see benefits in both ways. Maybe before we have certain types of discussions, we can say, do we want to ask questions now, or do we want to hold off and email?
No, because the public deserves the transparency that comes with each individual school committee member being able to ask a question. That's the whole point.
So you just want the reading and the voice at the meeting for the questions, so that people who are watching, instead of being able to go and read, is that the goal?
You can do it both ways, because if you want to text or email one of the principals and say, hey, I still had this question on this, you're free to do that as a committee member. You want to do it through the superintendent? Do it through the superintendent. But if there's someone here presenting, that is your prerogative as a school committee member, each of our, as a school committee member, to be able to ask them questions about the handbook that they're presenting. They should be able to answer the questions.
No, absolutely. No,
and
I
if they
agree with
can't,
that.
they don't have a problem saying, you know what, let me just get back to you on that. I can email it to you, or I can do it at another meeting. But there should be transparency for the people who are watching this, to say, we're acting as a committee, but as individuals, to ask questions on behalf of the people who voted us in here.
Was the intention for the emails to be able to, we can talk now and discuss them? Was that the intention?
Yes.
Okay, so it will be on the video, that the questions that we asked, and it'll be available electronically.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, no one's reading them. They're just available.
Well, I thought
You know, they were-
the point was, I had a question, it was answered, and now we're going to discuss the answer.
I think what
Was that
Dr. Byetta
accurate?
I believe what Dr. Byetta just said was, these will be available, but the questions have been asked, so we can ask new questions.
If I may. So a couple of things. I just want to be clear that in receiving any questions, they were literally forwarded. I didn't collate anything. Literally, they were forwarded emails, and the records show that they were forwarded emails to you and with the responses. I didn't pick the questions, choose the questions, cut and paste the questions, and I did so because I was concerned that somebody was saying, I'm picking the questions that are going to be asked, and I didn't. The emails are all forwarded, and there's proof of that in your packet, which are printed. The second part is you have a policy called CHCA, Approval of Handbooks. And it reads, each principal, in consultation with their school council, shall prepare and distribute to each student a handbook setting forth the rules pertaining to conduct of students. The school council shall review the handbook each spring to consider changes in the disciplinary policy to take effect each September. It is essential that the content of all handbooks conform to the school committee policies. It is also important that all handbooks bearing the name of the school system or of its schools be of quality that reflect credit on the school department. Therefore, the school committee expects any specific changes to handbooks that are related to school committee policy to be approved prior to publication. Committee approval will be necessary for any changes to the handbook that reflect standards of conduct for employees or students that are defined directly by school committee policy. The students will use his or her judgment, the superintendent will use his or her judgment as to whether other specific handbooks need committee approval. However, all handbooks published will be available to the committee for informational purposes. Legal reference MGL 7137H. So the fact of the matter is we've gone above and beyond with the school committee input into these handbooks because there's no policies that are being changed. What's being recommended are not policy impacted at all. So the committee has its say, but we're not trying to circumvent the public in any way. We're basically saying the school council, which is the driven force around handbooks, which consists of more parents than educators in almost every single one of them. And I don't know who shows up, and I haven't read the minutes, but they have the opportunity to say the put, and then you folks can, in fact, have input, but you're not necessarily voting on the handbook unless there's a policy change, of which
That's true.
I don't see any policy change. So if we want to make sure, to your point, Karen, that the public is very well aware, then I think we should do this as a standalone public meeting with only the handbooks on it. And anybody, we can put it out there for weeks on end and say, does anybody have any other comment that they want to make on these? Unless there's a policy. If there's a policy, then the school committee is going to do what it wants. But remember that the key of ed reform is school-based decision-making, and that's why the school councils were put into place, so that it's those folks who are in the building, right? So at our elementary schools, we come together as one handbook. It just makes sense, right? At our middle school, we have one, and then at our high school, we have a separate. And, it's more complicated each time. But the idea should be, if we're worried about transparency, then let's just make sure that, I would say, first meeting before town meeting even starts. So in April, which means the school council's got to get it done by March, that the meeting coming out and before town meeting, that we just have a meeting that's just about the student handbooks. And have as long of a meeting we want to have, asking as many questions as we want to have, so that the public is very aware of where the committee stands on certain things versus those things that they actually have the authority to vote on, if that makes sense.
So you're absolutely right. We don't have to vote on handbooks. I believe John even mentioned that. We don't have to vote on the handbooks unless there's a policy change in the handbook. When someone is coming to the school committee to present something, the school committee has the prerogative to be able to question some of the things that are going in, and the general public who might not be part of the school committee, a school council, has the ability to hear what's going on in the schools and potential changes in discipline. And there are people who have come to me and have said, I have concerns about some of the disciplinary actions that are being placed into the handbooks. And so we can come together as a committee, as it's supposed to be, a committee of 5, to decide if we want a special meeting and change it up and just have one meeting where we do this. But one meeting does not allow the public to be able to have us sit and listen and make interactions with what happens during school council meetings. So I would just say, for transparency and for the public to be able to hear what's going on, it shouldn't be just sit down, listen, ask questions, email them, and then the public can be given a copy if they want to, and we're going to move ahead because we don't want to stay here late because we want to go home early. Maybe it's just my own personal feeling.
Going home early or staying late. I mean, I will.
Well, for yourself, maybe, but there may be other people that actually think differently.
Yeah, it was more of just organizational wise. But I hear you, Karen, and I appreciate that because I do agree. Like, we should show the public our discussion points. And I'd be happy to go over on that.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of people being able to hear what questions each one of us asked, I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you like to proceed, Jillian?
Was I the only one who emailed questions? I was?
No.
Oh.
Do we have anybody else? I don't remember.
Questions went to Ms. Miller.
Right, but they all
Ms.
came
Crowley,
from Jillian, right?
A response from Ms. Crowley.
Yeah. Right.
Yes, those are the only ones.
But Jillian was the
Yes.
only one who submitted
Correct.
questions,
Yep.
yes.
So I don't know if we want to start with Ms. Miller and Ms. Crowley afterwards.
Okay.
I only had one for Ms. Miller.
Sure.
Hi, how's it going? How are you? Good, thanks. So there was actually two items that I wanted to bring up. One was for the Outstanding Athlete Award. The handbook mentioned 2 athletes, and I had concern that it didn't refer to gender specific, and it could be a potential issue with Title IX and having equal opportunity for both male and female athletes?
We moved away from gender-specific language several years ago, intentionally. We tried to leave it neutral. And so we would be looking for the two most outstanding athletes, whatever they may be, 2 boys, 2 girls, 1 of each. And then I believe I also offered to you that, if we saw a pattern of behavior, or a pattern of decision-making where it was always 2 boys or always 2 girls, then we might be concerned and we might look at how we're making those determinations. But as it's written right now, it would not be a Title IX violation.
And and it's been kind of going on for a few years now. That
the outstanding athlete would be new,
but the gender specific has been out. Thank you. And the second part of my question was just kind of understanding the process of the handbook updates, just how they came to be and who were the people discussing all the updates.
Yeah. So I try to run a very transparent process with the handbook from the very beginning. I remind my administrators from the start of the school year about keeping track of the policies and procedures that are coming up for them so they can be making notes along the way. So that the 4 of them who meet regularly can be making notes about the suggestions that they might make for changes. I also have on the agenda for my school council 3 separate occasions this particular year where we talked about the handbook formally. And throughout the school council, throughout the month, there might be something that comes up along the way that I might make note of that we might want to address in the handbook as well. I have a faculty council that meets once per month. That is as a representative from each of the departments and myself, and we meet once per month to talk about solutions to problems that are raised by the faculty. And the handbook is one of those things where around the January, February mark, I'm reminding them that we have the handbook. I share the most recent copy with them, ask them to be talking to their own departments because they go back, they act as liaisons, they go back to their departments, they talk about them, they make suggestions. We talk about them at faculty council. I do the same thing with my leadership team. And then I take all of those suggestions and we bring them to school council for discussion. Some things don't make it all the way through all the visits to the school council, and finally at the very last meeting where we'll be talking and voting about handbook is sort of the draft, and we discuss it and vote.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Was there any issues in the handbook that came up that the school council was had any issues with that had like some negative feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there were 2 things that I can think of just off the top of the head. The first was there was a movement from our athletic department and some coaching staff that they wanted to decrease our eligibility rules. They wanted students that had 3Fs to be able to participate because they thought we were very stringent. We're still more stringent than MIA, even at 3, and they wanted to be able to open it up to more athletes to be able to play. But neither the faculty council nor the school council had any tolerance for that. They wanted us to keep our standards very high, but the school council was the one who actually suggested to me to do the appeals process. And so I drafted an appeals process, put that in school council, and that passed through the school council. So there are discussions like that along the way. And then there was also a proposal that was suggested about grading. The very specific language I can't remember, but the the school council really didn't gain any traction with them, and so that did not make it through. So there's lots of things that come up, and we are trying to always be thorough and transparent and clear, and always making sure that the rules and the procedures and the things that we're putting in the handbook are for the benefit of the whole community.
I appreciate that. I like to hear, if we're putting up like a handbook update, if there were some, upset parties or parties that didn't agree, just kind of understanding their side and why they felt that way. I appreciate just hearing that, just to kind of know what the community's feeling about certain things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just interject on that? That would mean minutes of the agendas of school councils, which we are supposed to be sharing with the school committee, so I'll have to verify that because
there's only a few on the web. I did look those up. There's a couple of schools that post them up on there.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
I just want to ask, first of all, this was my first year on school council. It was very exciting and interesting and hearing the different perspectives of everyone. I wonder if you would just mention when people can get on, who can get on, because the participation and the ideas that go back and forth are really exciting. I'd love to see more participation at all levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So the high school is made up of myself as the administrator, and then faculty and staff, community members, parents and guardians, and high school level students, which is an added benefit. It's part of my favorite part. I put out a call at the beginning of September to parents, students, staff, for those who are interested in participating. And generally, I take everybody who suggests they want to be on it. Sometimes it can be hard at the high school level to have all students available at all times, and so I take all of them if they want to be on there. And we meet once per month. Generally, we meet the first Wednesday of each month. That's what my schedule's been for a while now. In 8 to 16, anybody's welcome to come, and it is a very lively discussion.
And just for the people at home, if like a parent or a student wanted to go to school council, where are those days and times posted?
So we post our agendas like any other public meeting. So they get posted with the town hall. They're on our school calendar. I don't know if they're on the parents' calendar. I can double check that, but we definitely post them for the town hall. And we put out our agendas ahead of time, and we do send our meeting minutes. I don't know if they get on the website. I don't do that part, but I do send them. And of course, anybody can always reach out to me if they have questions about any of that, or if they want to see something specifically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So, Dr. Baeta, point of order, you had mentioned that we do not need to vote as there are no policy impacts.
I would suggest that there's only one policy impact, and that is you have brought back fees for transportation via a policy. So the fact is those are new to the handbook. So you're adding that policy, but otherwise there's no other policy changes that I see.
Okay.
It's really up to you folks to decide what route you want to take. I do want to add to the public record, we received a letter, I want to say late morning, early afternoon, that I've shared with you. You have it in hard copy from the CPAC with concerns. Dear members of the school committee, stated today, Dr. Bayat and SPS staff, we are writing to you today regarding concerns around proposed disciplinary structure and programming you are considering implementing at OMS beginning 25-26 school year, specifically the inequitable effect the structured day plus options, and the element involved chaperone supervised classroom transfers could have on our special education students. We appreciate and value the goal of restorative justice disciplinary measures, as well as keeping students in their classroom learning directly from their teachers rather than in school suspension options. Our concern is twofold: the frequency of how often this program could be used for small infractions, and the public shaming lack of privacy aspect, where other students will undoubtedly know the results of another student's disciplinary action. We are hoping to hear about guidance for staff calling for a compromised implementation where chaperone transition options will be implemented in the least restrictive way possible and or limited to only the most severe cases. It would not be utilized for minor infractions like excessive tardiness the way it is currently written. Thank you for your consideration. Megan Texera and Kimberly Cavey, who are the co-chairs of the CPAC. So I'd like to enter that into the record as well. I've informed the OMS principal earlier today that we would take this under consideration, including collecting of data, and we will share that data with the school committee upon implementation. This is not an area where we are going into, because this is, I think, one of the concerns is this is a general education application. It's a discipline which is given across the board to all students equally. That's the main frame of the starting of discipline, is that you can go through a manifestation hearing process for special education students to see if the disability, in fact, is the reason why. But the fact is it starts with the infraction and the process being equal for everybody. Then you work off of that and make the changes as need be. I haven't spoken to these folks today. I know Mr. Clark had, and then we received this. I want to enter into the record. and we will meet as an administration and respond to the letter.
So the point of order question was, are we voting then on the updates made to the Stoughton High School handbook, student handbook?
Right, so those, again, would be under any policy. So we have made some policy changes in that handbook. One is graduation requirements. The other one is transportation. And I'm trying to think of what the third one was. I think those are the two. Because you voted a policy on transportation and, I'm sorry.
So historically, in terms of the interpretation, if it's simply replaced an existing school committee policy with an updated policy, we haven't done a vote. It's been when there's a procedure in the high school or an expectation or some type of guideline that falls under a school committee policy that the principal in the school council chose to amend. That generally would be something that you would vote. To simply replace an existing policy wouldn't normally require a vote of the handbook.
I stand corrected.
Okay.
But that's how it has historically been interpreted, subject to interpretation by the superintendent.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, this does not necessarily require a school committee vote?
No. Based on past interpretation.
So my wishes to the committee would be, since we're not taking a vote, if we could have one 30-second conversation. We need to discuss the intent of how we want to do this next year, because the impact on the calendar is significant. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. If, in fact, we want due diligence done by the school councils, we've got to get the school councils done with the handbook review sooner than we currently do. That's number one. And two, then get it to the committee for whatever meeting we want to have, regular meeting with other items, and we're here until midnight. Doesn't matter. I don't have a problem with that. But to make sure that we address Karen's major concerns of the transparency with the public, so that everybody has access to it and has a say, regardless if it's a policy vote or not of the school committee. Make sense?
So if we want to do it earlier, then we got to get it early. We got to get it earlier. That's all. Yep. We just have to get it early. I don't know if that's difficult.
So we have a process in place that provides a clear timeline for the principals in terms of engaging their school council, developing their handbooks. We can just meet tomorrow and look at amending the timeline.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Didn't even take 30 seconds.
Well, I think I took the 30 seconds.
I read this faster than you said that.
Sorry. It will be in the packet as well.
That's all right. But we do have that OMS.
Yes, we do. So, Principal Crawley?
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back. All right, so specific questions for Ms. Crawley?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go through my questions here. So for the tardy program, I wanted to get a specific definition of repeated late to school, like how many days within a certain time frame.
Yep. So for this year, we looked at the September data, and then we defined repeatedly late to school as 7 or more tardies in the 1 month time frame.
So within a 30-day time frame, it's 7 days, and that was based off of just average school data on what was above the norm, like above the bell curve of tardies.
Yes.
The additional time required on early release days for students who are late, for instance, if a student is 15 minutes late repeatedly, does that equate to needing to stay an extra 15 minutes, or does every student, regardless of their tardiness, stay the same amount of time?
No, so it's different per student. We total up the time, and then they would stay that amount of time. Part of what our deans of students do when in this early Thursday program is they meet with students and actually show them these are the days you were late this month, and these are the times you came in, and so that equals this amount of time frame. And for students, sometimes that's when the light bulb goes off of, oh, I missed like 2 full class periods because of it all totaling together. So once they kind of make up their time, they can go. So not all students are, it's not like bell to bell, for example. Students would leave when they're done with their time, but some of them stay longer because they find they're being productive because they're making up work and catching up on work for classes.
Yeah, that led me to my next question, like what type of activities and who's supervising? Like, for middle school, you have a very large range of age of children and different abilities. Who are the ones supervising and assisting them with their activities?
Yeah, so for this year, because we were piloting and trying to solve it this year, it was completely run by OMS administration. So early Thursdays are when we have professional development, so we kind of divided and conquered this year. Our deans of students were dedicated to the tardy program. The assistant principal and I would go up for professional development and check in with the departments and help them with PD. So it's completely run by the deans. We did get more creative and partnered with the high school, and that's where National Honor Society came down to tutor. And so just kind of utilizing our resources the way we had it, so that the National Honor Society students also get their hours, and middle schoolers love high schoolers, so they look up to them. So it was kind of a win-win there.
Yeah, that's great. And so there was really no additional staffing costs that were associated with it, even like there's sick days or personal days being taken by staff, that wouldn't impact that program at all?
No.
All right, awesome. My next question was, I had an AI question, just because I know in my personal work, we use AI all the time. It's like become a very integrated factor into, into our work. The verbiage used in this seems to be like an all-out ban on AI, which it's such a touchy subject of, when can you use artificial intelligence, when you shouldn't be, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on, because it is so important. It's like a new technology. It's like when I was a kid learning Google. It was a big thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's so it's not intended to be an outright ban. I think it's just because it falls in under our cheating and plagiarism section. It reads as that because it's an addition to cheating and plagiarism, that section. I do think, though, it continues to evolve, so I could see in the future a completely separate AI section of the handbook where it elaborates more, or whether there's a district policy on that, or state guidelines.
So to go in your direction, there is currently no district policy, and let me just say it's a bone of contention statewide around what it should look like.
Yeah.
However, adding something of clarity around AI and cheating has been highly recommended by your association and mine because of a current case out of the South Shore, where it wasn't in the handbook noted as potentially considered as, quote, cheating. So that's the reason why I get that. I would expect MASC and others to have a policy recommendation any day now, but it's really right now about making sure that everybody's clear that unless you're communicated with, you can use AI, that AI is not utilized, if you will. So especially when it comes to writing an essay, that type of stuff. So this is going to be a very tricky one, a lot trickier than the cell phones. A lot trickier.
I know, yeah.
And if I could just comment on that, we did in fact reach out to MASC, and there is a policy in the works, but their response was very similar to what you just said. This is taking a little longer because this is much more complicated and evolving than what they normally work with in terms of developing a policy.
And by the way,
Jillian, just for the committee, everybody's got an opinion on AI. It is the most all over the place thing I've ever seen. I can talk to 5 of my colleagues and get 5 different answers. Same thing with our staff. So it's going to be a hard one to write.
I would say as a committee, it's something that we should consider. What our policy in Stoughton is going to be. I know that Ms. Miller just went through, because I'm in school council, that she went through an AI course for principals, I believe. So maybe at some point you can give us a presentation on it. I think an all-out ban is a real disservice because I personally know, I personally have seen it, that there are other schools that are promoting their students to use AI, and they are running away with it, and they are going to be way further ahead of our kids if we are banning AI, and it does need to start at the younger grades. I don't know what that looks like. You guys are going to tell us what that's going to look like. MASC is going to tell us what that looks like. But certainly doing something sooner rather than later, as opposed to an all-out, well, if you use it, it's plagiarism. And I know that it's not just in English that it's used. I know they use it in math. I know that it's akin even to Khan Academy, that I know a lot of our students use to supplement their teachers' lessons. So they're using Khan Academy and they're using AI. And I don't think that would necessarily be considered plagiarism, but maybe under this policy it might be. So definitely we need to have conversations about it.
It is a, I want to piggyback on what Karen's saying, because I've had some conversations in the technical education field, in the voc tech world, because of their connection to real world, right? Their idea of the kids go to 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, but also work placement. They're opening up AI to students right away, much more, and part of it is because the wherever they're going to work, there's an expectation that you're going to use everything and anything that you can to resolve the problem. Interesting enough, today I met with a Stoughton High School graduate who's going to be reaching out to you, Ms. Miller, and another student, both graduating next week from UMass Boston, who have started their own company on utilization of IA and note-taking for students. And as you know, in this special education world and EL world, could be a game changer in a very positive way. So, yeah.
There's a lot of programs, I use them for teachers to use to write things using AI. I know Magic School is one of, I don't know if I would.
Even some of our administrators use it.
Without AI, so yeah, something has to be done.
In the workforce development space, there's a lot of conversation around this and how to best equip workers for the jobs of tomorrow, or even the jobs of today through AI. And in the youth workforce development space, meaning ages 14 to 24, they are now estimating that those that graduate from high school or college or an education training program with experience with AI, not necessarily competency, but just experience, are entering the workforce roughly 5 to 10 years ahead of their peers.
So as a question, let's say, so I know we need to create an AI policy, and we're waiting for some feedback, from the government departments. When does that policy need to take effect for it to be provide for the schools? So this handbook's going to be published and written. So if we create a policy like next month, do we have to go back and redo the handbook?
Well, if you create a policy that has a reflecting district, you can say this is effective at the beginning of the next school year, or it could be the day that you voted in. That would be determined based on the policy itself and how you see it being implemented. If you made a change that had direct impact on the handbooks, the principal would simply go back and make the adjustment within their handbooks. The process by which developing the handbook is actually Mass General Law, and if you look at the policy that the superintendent quoted earlier, it references the policy that defines how the handbooks are developed. School committee is not actually mentioned in that law, and that's why our policy exists as it is. But you could simply flip it back to the principal, and the principal has the authority to generate the changes to the handbook. Then that would be subject to review in the next cycle with the school council.
If I can just say something, unless I read the question and the answer wrong because it was published in advance, it's not a ban on AI, it just is preventing the use of it as your own work, like plagiarism. Am I reading that wrong? So I can't imagine the school committee policy would promote that. Am I?
No, but
unless I read it
how it was
wrong.
Worded in the handbook.
Yeah.
The section that was under, it was just
Right.
all forms of AI are banned.
Yeah.
And it's just
It is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's what it sounds like. So I just wanted to kind of open this subject because I knew that we had a potential policy coming into play that it just part of the discussion.
Right.
That maybe that needs to be reworded once the policy gets created.
Do we have a potential policy coming in?
No, we haven't seen one yet. We have not seen one yet. I will tell you this. This policy, whatever you decide to do with it, is a game changer, regardless what you do with it, on day-to-day activities in a classroom. So the idea that we vote today, implement it tomorrow, would be the biggest no-no, I would say to you, because of we need to spend time with staff on what that means.
No,
You know, we need to and define it. And I'll give you a perfect example. My daughter goes to a pretty large university, and the discussions there are even at a level that, so if they're in a, let's just say, research area, AI is being promoted. If they're in the liberal arts area, it's not being promoted as much. Right? It's kind of, it's so interesting to see the debate, and she sees it because she might be in a course where, yeah, AI at all, and then another course, no, you cannot do anything with AI in this course. It's so interesting. So my point is this: we're going to have the discussion. We're going to have a lot of input. Probably it's probably not one. I think the reason why we don't have a policy yet is because it's so complicated on what it means, and then implementing it is going to be really, really harsh because
technology keeps changing. Like whatever we do now is probably a year from now it's going to change.
Great. And remember that lawsuits change educational policy.
I would like to ask Ms. Miller, maybe Ms. Crowley too, are there classes that you're considering adding for the next year? I know this year we added a number of classes, great fun classes too, really interesting. But is there in the works, or maybe even the back of your mind, an AI class that kids could take that would allow them to, thank you, allow them to kind of pursue it, look into it, learn how to use it, because I know you learned what you put in. We used to call it junk in, junk out. So that's how old I am.
Yeah, so we don't have an AI course in the works right now, but you bring a really interesting point forward. The district did pay for several administrators to go through the Rocket PD AI course, and that's the one that I took. But I also went to a conference at Taunton High School where they showed the teachers and administrators that were there how AI actually works to generate answers, and the whole point of that was to try to teach students how to use AI appropriately, because, you know, if you are not well educated in a particular subject and you put a prompt into AI, it's going to give you an answer, and it may or may not be factual and accurate. And if you don't have any sort of background to discriminate whether what you've gotten is, you know, accurate or not, you pass that off as accurate information. And so our students are sometimes doing that. Plus, our students sometimes are taking it verbatim and presenting it as their own, which, you know, we believe to be cheating. So, but there are ways to use AI where, you know, if they have to write a paper, you can put in a certain prompt where, you know, generate some ideas for me about what I might do, and then they write their own paper, right? Right. So we're having these discussions a lot at the high school level about how to use it, and like Dr. Bayet also said, the opinions of our faculty range the full spectrum because people feel really. It's very personal to them, right? Like what they see in the classroom. So we haven't generated, the short answer is we haven't generated an idea about AI, but we definitely are talking about how do we teach our students to use it appropriately as a tool and a resource, where you're not presenting something as your own work, but you're using it to help you generate your work.
I think that's something maybe even Jillian and I can agree on. Yes. That would be nice to see. Even if it's, I know you have that new, Dr. Bayetta, that new Stoughton school that's kind of with the CTE. I don't even know if that's something that can be, the Stoughton Academy, that could be sort of mingled in with that also, because some of our high school students, I think you had said, might be able to take that as well as some of the night students in there. Today. Oh, well, look at that. You're way ahead of us already. All right, thank you.
And at the I would just say at the middle school level, Brian Scanlon, our curriculum director for secondary, him and I have had conversations about our STEM class. So we have STEM in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and the same way where we saw social media evolving, and we've incorporated, like with common sense literacy, and social media has been slowly incorporated into that curriculum where they have those discussions. We've also started talking about AI because that is a class, an existing class, where that would be a curriculum update. But because it's evolving and the conversations are having we're really following kind of the high school lead on it, that is one that we're looking to down the road of what would be appropriate for middle schoolers. What we are seeing in middle school is unfortunately, the cheating end, where they are putting a prompt in and submitting it as their own work, which is why it's currently being added to our cheating and plagiarism section. The language on it, we actually took from the language in the high school handbook. It's under the cheating and plagiarism. They're separate sections in the high school handbook. They're one section in ours, so the school council looked at the high school handbook and we adopted it for ours.
So I would respectfully submit, I'm always a person that would rather see, I don't like punitive justice. I'd rather see children be taught the right way than to be punished for doing it the wrong way, but they tried. So they might be using AI and they put out something that's, is probably just something that AI generated and they didn't really put in the work, and it's just it really is just cheating. They're just kind of trying to get someone else to do the work. That happens. But I would rather see a class, and if it's happening at the middle school, then a middle school class that says, first of all, that clearly spells it out. You're saying that it's not a ban, but it sounds like a ban to parents because that's all that we are. We're not, at least I'm not an educator. So to me, it sounds like a ban. So to the kids and to the parents, it's going to sound like a ban. Maybe some acceptable ways, or everyone's going to have to take a class that says, if you're going to use AI, this is how we expect you to use it. We don't expect you to have AI create your entire project, but you can use it as a tool. So I would just say there needs to be a little bit more clarification on it for parents and students to be able to fully comply with the handbook.
I see two possible ways that you might want to consider approaching this, and you've already got staff that are very well educated in both of these realms. One is the English staff when it comes to citing work and reinforcing that and what a proper citation would be. And there are citation models to use for AI and AI-generated work. And the other is digital literacy. Digital literacy is something that we've been teaching now for 20-plus years. This is just like social media, an expansion of that in terms of how you leverage that to further your own academic acumen and capabilities. So just a suggestion to double down on what Karen said. Obviously, curriculum is your purview, but some of us do have varying levels of experience in this space as well. Other questions for Ms. Crawley?
Yes. I had brought up under the cell phone electronic device policy, the new policy, I noticed the phrase, the student or parent/guardian should communicate with a school administrator and the school nurse regarding any needs of the medical plan. I suggest that the should be changed to something along the line of must, because the wording kind of implies that it's optional.
I did take that back to school council at our May meeting, and they agreed. So they did agree with that suggestion.
My next question's on the structure day and the structure day plus. I like the policy, just kind of keeping kids in school as opposed to a suspension. Anytime to keep kids in school is great. So I had asked, how long is a student required to remain on a structure day after a penalty is imposed? Like, just one penalty equals one structure day, or is there longer periods of time?
So it would not be on the first. It wouldn't be the issued on the first offense. I mean, if we're
but let's say you're on whatever offense you need to get a structure day. Is it just a 1-for-1?
It would depend on the situation. It would be 1, maybe 2 days maximum. It wouldn't be for long periods of time.
Okay. Is there a maximum number of structure days a student can be assigned before other additional disciplinary actions are necessary?
We do progressive discipline, so we're looking to see if we can address the behavior and fix it. So if a structure day isn't working, we wouldn't continue on that path. We would adjust and assign a different consequence. We would also have to look to see if it's a repeated behavior, if the same thing's happening, if it's a different circumstance. So it would be case by case.
Would there ever be a situation where if a student was put onto a structured day and it really works for that student, and every time they're not in a structured day, they get into trouble after a certain period of time? You're like, oh, I'm just constantly hand-holding this child throughout their day. Is that something acceptable, or would you think about doing something else?
That would be a conversation for us with the parents and guardians. If we're observing they're actually benefiting and finding success with more structure, that would be something that would be a conversation between the administrator and the parent to see, we're noticing this, and the student actually, to see, well, what's happening during a structured day that's working? Is there something that we can apply when there isn't someone right nearby? If you're not on a structured day, we would try and get to the root of, well, what's working and how can we expand on it?
Can I interject for a second? So the concern here is going to be least restrictive learning environment. So if a student is going through a process of this, we're trying to use restorative justice. We're trying to not suspend the student either in school or out of school and use another means. Mm-hmm. The question would then become, who's doing this and when, if it's going to go longer? So then that means the superintendent has to work with the building principal on making cuts elsewhere in order to be able to allow. So I think at that point what would happen, besides the parent discussion, would be, do we have a student here with a learning challenge, a behavioral challenge? Should the student go through testing? Or even up another alley, which would be the student's supposed to be in the classroom. We're trying to keep the student from going home and being suspended as a plan. At some point, the decision will have to be made on, does the student go home or not? Because that structured day can only go on for so long. That's
kind of the point I was bringing up. It just doesn't seem to be.
It works independent of each situation, right? So there are certain kids that it takes one structured day, you'll never see the kid again. And it takes another student, potentially in a year, 3 to 5 times. The question then becomes, what's the next step for that student? Because if the student is being pushed out of class for whatever reason, disrespectful, skipping class, whatever the case may be, at some point the school system has a right to suspend the student. You know, we don't have to ask permission of a parent to suspend a student. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of that flavor around here, like, you can't suspend my kid. I don't have to ask you to suspend your kid. That's not something I have to ask you of. Matter of fact, I don't even have to listen to you about it.
That's not really an appropriate thing to say, though, especially to all the parents that are listening on school committee. We absolutely want to hear from parents, and we're not looking
That's not what I'm saying.
I know, it came across as
Okay, let me, I'll leave it at that.
Just going to my kind of like my follow-up question to that, because I had like some staffing concerns, because it seems very staff heavy. Like it takes a lot of bodies to do something like this. So is there like only a certain number of children that can be on a structured day at a certain time? And what if we hit that maximum? Do you have to like delay structured day for like another? I mean, I'm under this assumption that all these kids are bad, and gonna put all these. I don't expect that at all. I was just curious on what your forethought was on, if you had a whole group of kids that got into some sort of mischief that you required something like this.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen that in terms of a group of kids that have gotten together into this, because again, it's progressive. So this wouldn't be the first step. If there's a group of kids, we'd talk to them and kind of explain walking in the hallway, especially in middle school.
Walking.
They do need to be reminded.
It does happen.
They do need to be reminded of that. But if in terms of the structured day, it would only be 1 or 2 students because it is staff heavy. So we could only have 1 or 2 at a given time on the time frame.
Have you met that during this trial period that you've been doing it this past year?
Yeah, we've had 2, and we found that we wouldn't add a third because of just the staff needs And then if there is a need for a third, we'd assign it on a different day. Again, it's a short-term consequence.
Did you come across a situation this past year where you did have a third child that needed to be on it and you had a delay?
No, but we have gotten to 2, and I've checked in with my deans, and they said we couldn't. If I was like, what? I have asked what if there's a third, and then we wouldn't have the bodies to be able to do a third on the same day.
I was going to make a joke, but I'll save that. Regarding like when they have to do like the after school session, like who's supervising that? Are there any additional costs to it, and what activities are the students going to be engaging in?
No additional cost to it. The after school program or the after school session, I mean, would be administrators because it's an office session. So we have teacher sessions on the teacher level for classroom consequences, so students may stay after school on the teacher level. Structured day is on the office level, so it would be an administrator supervising after school, but that's the time for reflection, conversation, really to have the time carved out in a school day to have the conversation to figure out what is going on. Again, so we're not taking them out of classes and having those conversations during the school day.
Is there any additional staff there, like, counselors or anything like that might, help a student to not be in the same situation again?
Yes, so during, the counselors are available during the school day to check in with the student if needed, but after school on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, our counselors stay after as well, and so on those days they are available to check into after school.
Awesome. Has there been any other school district that's implemented this similar policy, and do you have any information on that?
Yes, I can't remember the exact district, but I went to the MSAA winter conference, and there was a middle school committee group, and so that was one of the benefits actually of going to that conference because we're the only middle school in Stoughton, so it was great to get together with other middle school principals and bond over middle school of what we're seeing day to day. Restorative practices and restorative consequences is a theme in middle school, just trying to figure out because it's really a learning time frame for students. So middle school administrators are really looking to each other to say, what are you doing in your school? What's working for yours? So that's where Structured Day came from, actually. One of the schools had explained their process Structured Day before they go to an in-school suspension. They go to a Structured Day as an alternative to suspension, adding more structure because the student is struggling primarily in unstructured spaces, but it's just an added level, again, an alternate to the in-school suspension. So that's where the idea came from.
Are you good?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, no, those were awesome. Do you want to talk over it?
The question that she had about other schools doing it, Jillian just asked.
Yeah. I know that there are other schools doing it. I've seen it in practice. It has worked for some, doesn't work for others. Obviously, you've already mentioned that, so that's an obvious thing. I do want to, you did get the CPAC, you got a copy of this. All right, so I would ask, if you don't mind, maybe you can address at least the 2 numbered bullets where they said, our concern is twofold. So I'll start with the first one, and maybe you can address that for them. The frequency of how often this program could be used for small infractions.
So in terms of small infractions, we have that offense category table in our handbook. So type 1, it's not used as a consequence for type 1, and it's saved until the second offense for type 2 offenses. I think the other important thing to note is there are also teacher consequences that are signed. This is an office, this is kind of administration when something comes to the office. Typically in middle school, it's by the time it comes to the office, we also look to see, especially if there's a classroom issue happening, teachers have addressed it too. So there have already been warnings and conversations at the teacher level. So in terms of, I know their point was for small infractions, this wouldn't be the first time something happens, or even the second time something happens that a student gets put on a structured day. That would be more reserved for something that's type 3, type 4, of a more severe, serious issue.
Okay, because it does actually say type 1 third offense, and some of the third offenses are inappropriate hallway behavior, hall pass violation. So I think some of these are kind of small infractions, and I can see what you're saying, that the
Third offense,
teachers
yes.
might be saying, hey, listen, you've been late 3 times to this class in the last week.
Yep.
We're going to make this now an infraction.
Yeah.
You know?
And so a structured day would be assigned by administrator, so not on the teacher level.
Right.
So if we're talking, and I know they reference in this excessive tardiness, I think they say. So
They did,
if a
yes.
student is excessively tardy to class, let's say between period 2 and period 3, in between classes, a teacher is addressing that first. And so they're reaching out to home. They are having the student make up the time. If it's a continued and repeated issue.
I'm sorry. Are they reaching out to home? Do we have actually proof that these teachers are calling home before the infractions and said, hey, the student has been late to class 4 times in the last month or something?
Before it reaches the office level, yes, because that's
You do?
part of our office referral is have you contacted home. So as the teachers fill out those pieces, they do. That is part of it. Is what is this a repeated behavior? Have you reached out to the parent? What are the interventions you've done beforehand? So if a teacher hasn't reached out to home, then before the office takes it over, we keep it at the teacher level.
That was definitely one of my concerns. So the second one is the public shaming, lack of privacy aspect, where other students will undoubtedly know the results of another student's disciplinary action. And they absolutely know the results. It's obvious when they're walking through the halls.
So in this case, it depends on so structured day looks different depending on a student's schedule. In the middle school, we're a team model, so the team classes are right next door to each other. So if they're transitioning, for example, they might be just transitioning right next door, in which case we have an old building, our doors connect. So they might just be using the interior doors. So there wouldn't necessarily be an adult right next to them. It would just be go to the next door classroom.
Sure. How many transitions? Because it's different for you guys than the high school. It's 8 classes in a day on a short block?
We have 7 periods, and then we have 1 advisory. So about 8. They go to 8 locations.
So it's unlikely that all of them are going to be from interior door to interior door.
Yes, not all
And then
of
there's
them.
also the lunch that they're escorted to a lunch, and then they're separated. There's
They
a
wouldn't
social
be in the
exclusion.
cafeteria.
They wouldn't be in the cafeteria at all, complete social exclusion.
It would be an alternative space, yes. But again, this is instead of an in-school suspension. It's an alternate to suspension. The hope here is that we're trying to avoid suspensions and trying to get creative with our solution with them. Really, this is adding like a mitigating step before we're starting to pull students from classes and pulling them to in-school suspension. We're trying to kind of add more alternate consequences.
And again, this was something that the parents should know about ahead of time, because they would already have an idea. Are they ever informed, like, to student and parent, listen, you have, is there even, so this one says third offense of a hall pass violation. So at the first or second offense, is something going home? Even at the first offense and saying, hey, listen, 3 offenses, and you're going to have a structured day, and you'll be removed from the cafeteria, and you'll have your lunches separately. And you said 2 students at a time, so I guess it'd be a separate room with 2 students and escort? Is that kind of how that would work?
It would be either in the office or in our learning commons. Those are typically the spaces we use, just outside of the cafeteria, because those are supervised spaces.
Right, and so they wouldn't be able to they would have to bring their lunch for that?
No, they would
day?
get lunch.
They could still get lunch on that day. All right, but it would still be a call home?
Yes, of course.
Okay, because I wouldn't want this sprung on a parent or a student.
No, never. No, if for office consequences, we communicate home.
No, that's awesome. All right, I appreciate you with that one.
Because one public shaming, if they get in-school suspension, everybody at school knows they have, I forget about that. Everybody at school knows they have in-school suspension, so public shaming could take place then, too, when they show up at school and they never show up in their classes. Right?
They could just be absent.
Yeah,
They don't-
well,
that's not
no, you'd be
publicized.
surprised, because I taught middle school too long, but you'd be surprised how they would be telling everybody where they're heading for the day.
But that's on them.
Yeah.
Then they would be the ones that are
Yeah.
doing that. So it's a concern for me too, the public shaming thing. It's definitely a concern for me. I know that it has worked. Again, I'm not in favor of punitive justice. If we can find another way, that would be excellent. I'm a little concerned about, actually a lot concerned, that middle school is such a transitional period for kids. And CPAC, I can totally understand some of these kids might already have some issues that make it more difficult for them to monitor and self-monitor their behaviors. I'm going to take a leap of faith. I'm quite sure that that's something you in your administration takes into consideration. So what would concern me are the children that might be undiagnosed, because those diagnoses may not really take effect, and I don't know, because I'm not an expert, but they might not take effect until sometime around puberty. My concern is that there is no licensed behaviorist in the school that's actually saying, listen, this might be something else. This is just strictly punitive. And so there might be adjustment counselors, and maybe they're behaviorists. I think last time you were here, you said there wasn't a behaviorist in the middle school. I know there is talks about police officers being added to the middle school, new school resource officers. I think we have one now at the high school. There might be another one added, and then another one added to the middle school. And before we budget for a police officer or a school resource officer, I would rather see a budget for a behaviorist to be able to help out with these types of things. I think you even said someone that can actually monitor the behavior and guide them. So these are definitely concerns for me for structured day, concerns for CPAC, I guess, for structured day, that I hope you guys consider.
Any other questions for Principal Crawley? Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for answering all the questions. I really appreciate it.
Okay. And Ms. Monahan is not here for the elementary school. Were you standing? No. Okay. And no one had any submitted questions for the elementary school, correct? Correct. Excellent. Are we ready to move on to the next agenda item? Okay. So the next agenda item is a reading of communications. I actually have two. I have one that's on the agenda and one that I just got today that I wanted to enter into the record. So the one that I've received, I'm not sure if the entire school committee received it or not, but this is the time of year for our newer members when our 8th graders at the OMS are learning about the importance of civic engagement through a civics project. The annual civics project requires students to identify and research a local issue or area in need of improvement, and then to create and implement different action steps to help improve it. Many student action plans include reaching out via email to the appropriate local community leaders. The goal of the project is to encourage students to develop their civic skills by becoming informed, active, and engaged citizens in the town of Stoughton, which I absolutely love this. So in addition to an email alerting us to these projects, and I always appreciate the heads up, so thank you. We received an email from 2 middle school students, Lily Goodwin and Caitlin Mitchell, requesting more mental health supports at the middle and high school levels. As the authority of the school committee primarily concerns Stoughton Public Schools budget, the performance of the superintendent, and the educational goals and policy of the district's public schools, we are not necessarily in a position to act on any of those thoughtful solutions, but I know that they have already set up a meeting with the OMS principal, and I know that there have been offers to meet with them regardless to provide input and thoughts on their project, and I know that Dr. Baeta has also already responded to their project. So I know that several school committee members, if not all of us, have mentioned that mental health is a very important area of concern for us, and I'm personally really pleased that they reached out and that they chose this as their topic. So I wanted to thank them for that. The other communication that I received was from Jesse Karen, and he says, just to state into the record, hello, I am writing because I was on the OMS School Council last year as well as this year. Last year, we discussed the homework policy quite frequently and also gave a lot of feedback about the policy and how we would like to improve it. I know this information, along with other feedback and survey information, was given to the school committee. Throughout council meetings this year, I've repeatedly asked for updates on this and have repeatedly been told that it is still with the school committee. I realize that there's been a lot of recent changes in the makeup of the committee and the enormous hurdle of getting approval for the new elementary school building. I am sure you all have a lot on your plate moving forward, but I would ask that the homework policy be addressed and not allowed to continue to fall through the cracks. The current policy really puts our kids at a disadvantage and makes it difficult for teachers. I'm hoping that you can address this soon. Many thanks for your consideration and for giving your time and energy to the schools in town. Cheers, Jess Karen. So I just wanted to enter that into the record as a communication that we've received. All right, moving on to the next agenda item. We have the superintendent's reports.
You have the civics project, OMS, under communications.
No, I already addressed that. That's the first thing I said.
Oh.
I even acknowledged your acknowledgement, and you said, yes, I did respond to it.
We have a staff member here who is really in charge of that, so would you mind if she just...
Not at all. Good to know that. Thank you.
My bad. She's trying to get away with not having...
It's like, oh, I don't have to talk anymore.
But the 8th grade civics project is going on, so all of our 8th graders do it. So I'm going to introduce Mrs. Valaire, who's our head teacher, social studies head teacher, and also 8th grade teacher.
Yep, so I have been teaching at the middle school since my 18th year. It was one of my first years when the curriculum really started to change in Massachusetts, with more of a shift on just American history to incorporating more government and civics. And early onset stages of this included just a letter. We have then evolved this project into the letter as only one of 3 action steps that students are expected to create and then implement. So after researching their topic of choice, identifying, as you mentioned, a couple school issues, whether it was mental health services and supports, school lunches, school start times, school safety. Other students focused on a big one this year was the proposal for a teen center in Stoughton and how beneficial that could be for young kids, specifically middle and high school students. So students have to do the research, finding other areas of success, really identifying the issue with evidence, whether it's from interviews with community members or surveys and polls they've created, petitions to gain support, all of these different action steps, emails that some of you have received from students reaching out to who they think are necessary outlets. And obviously, as we continue to evolve year after year, maybe harping on who would better maybe be a contact, but at least to put on your radar. I'm sure when I tell those are my 2 students tomorrow that you mentioned them, they're going to feel great. And I think that's the be-all and all of this project. Is my job is to try to convince them what we're learning is important. And I love this project. I know some communities see it as a burden. I think we've really tried to embrace it as a blessing for kids to see that what you're learning matters and can actually be applied. So you might not be old enough to drive, you might not be able to vote, but your voice can be heard and you can utilize and apply all of those civic rights responsibilities even as teenagers. So little baby steps of this project, but kids are in the work of finishing up. So the final component is to take everything they've done, worked at, and present it in a slideshow to their peers. And then if and when some of those adults they've contacted in the community are available, they actually meet in person with them and kind of pitch their ideas then. So it is a really rewarding end of the year project that I just wanted to come and give a little plug at. And if any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them on behalf of our department.
So like I said, I love this project. We love getting the emails every year from the students and getting their ideas. And some of them have really helped to kind of move things forward. I think the Handsome project came out, the playground project came out of one of those emails. So they really do have an opportunity to make change. A previous town moderator impressed upon me when I was a PTO member way back in the day that you have the greatest level of impact when you act locally. And so I think it's really important to encourage that. And of course, it would be great to have more diverse voices, including age range of voices, at the table when it comes to how we run the town of Stoughton. So I really appreciate this. I wanted to open this up to any school committee members who have any questions or comments.
I think it's great. Kids learning how local government works. I think there's a lot of adults who don't know how local government works. So having a generation of children who understand it and get passionate about it is awesome. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Dr. Bayer? Thank you to the committee. First of all, thank you for your leadership on this, because your comment really gets to me as someone who is a real big fan of this. Because especially in a community like Stoughton, because a lot of kids really don't even know what form of town government, right? Town meeting and what is a select board and school committee and who's this, all that stuff. But just so that the committee knows, truly the last 2 years that I've been in Stoughton, I've received these emails from students and followed up with an email, and that's not necessarily what happens everywhere, right? So this civics project, as you so note, it's taken seriously here by our staff, you leading it, and our students becoming engaged. Of course, there's different levels of engagement, just like there is in the community, but it's not, Stoughton has really decided at 8th grade to really take the civics and really try to make it something for kids to really grasp onto, and it's probably also some fun for them to have. But case in point, you go way back to the Hanson School project, it starts with civics. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving to the superintendent's report and the school committee chair's report. The 2025-2026 school committee meeting calendar. My apologies, I did not see that in the packet, included in the packet. Dr. Bayed, I wonder if that's something that Kathy can send to the school committee members. So we have that. It was something that was requested, put it together. Want to make sure that you can plan accordingly and that you know up front when the meetings are planned. If there is no reason to meet, we will not meet, but the meetings are on the calendar just so that you have that for planning purposes. Superintendent's evaluation process and next steps.
I provided the committee a packet tonight. In that packet is the 2 documents for your consideration, review, and completion. The first document is the superintendent's goals update, FY25 through FY24 through 25. The second document is the evaluation rubric. And so you have a copy with all of the stuff that I added to it, and then the second is actually your evaluation. Please note that your individual evaluation is public record, but the summation of my evaluation through the chair is what is voted and goes into my personnel file. Typically, we're pretty. We have time. You don't have to get this done by June 30th per se, but you would want to have a timeline that the chair and the vice chair can decide with this full school committee what your timeline should be. Typically, it's about a 2 to 3 week turnaround time from the membership to the chair, and then another 2 to 3 weeks for the chair to kind of collate it, put it together, and then provide it to me, and then it's put in an agenda item and discussed publicly and voted. Only employee in the Commonwealth as superintendent of schools that are done that way, in general.
So if you have any questions, you need further follow-up, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll collate it. You know, I can create files upon files of stuff to give to you if you like, that, you know, are attached to any of these things. Some of them, you've already seen them at school committee meetings. They've been action items on agendas. But it's your call, your decision overall, and then just making sure that we have a completed evaluation. I've had it go into the summer and be the first thing in September, and I've had it be done by June 30th. It's really up to you folks.
It's going to be bad.
It's okay. Tell me
Discussion
what you need.
preferences in
Tell me what you
regards
need.
to timeline and process? Any suggestions?
Thank you.
By June 30th is.
I think that's preferable because it's something that's typically done
Yes.
by the close of the superintendent's second year.
So do we have a meeting that we just discussed this?
Yeah, you,
Yeah.
Could do a special meeting. You can do a special meeting on that.
yeah, we just have to be careful about timelines. I do have a commitment at the end of June that I've already made and paid for. So
You have to be there?
Well, it's costing me a few.
We'll wait you without you being here.
Could also end up in divorce court, but that's a discussion for another day.
Go on your vacation.
But
We'll
I'm
validate
willing to.
without
I'm
you.
willing to work with the committee in any way that I need to.
It's a public evaluation, just so that the,
Could one of you just kind of outline what the process is? Is there a meeting with, do we fill this out independently and then we discuss it at a meeting?
I've never actually done one.
Typically, you complete your evaluation as an individual school committee member. You send your thoughts to the chair. The chair collects that from the four of you and collates it into one evaluation. That's the public discussion at a meeting.
Sorry, say that again.
So you each send your summative evaluation to the chair. The chair collates it all and basically says, you've all said, three of you have said proficient, 2 have said need improvement, it's proficient, but may note areas to improve, or exemplary, or whatever the case may be, or unsatisfactory. And then that document is then duplicated, provided to everybody. I meet with the chair, and then I come to a public meeting and I get whatever the outcome of the meeting is. And it's voted and entered into the record and filed. And then my overall rating is part of my record.
There is a large item on the MASC's website that talks about how to do the evaluation. So I know that's what I'm going to be looking at to help me through it, also make sure that we're doing it correctly.
I appreciate that, thank you. I'll check out the same.
Yeah, should look and make sure that we're doing it right.
I'll find that and I'll send that to all the committee members. It's a great recommendation.
So just to clarify, so we are going to fill this out, email to the chair. By what date does the chair want this?
So that's what I wanted to solicit input.
What was the dates on the calendar for June?
June 17th.
And that's it, huh? Yeah.
We have graduations. And
Yeah.
Right, right.
Doesn't give us much time.
Does not, no.
No. So the question is, if everyone can get their input to me by like the 9th, no later than the 10th, that at least gives me, well, actually, it doesn't give me enough time because it would become part of the meeting packet, which means that needs to be finalized by that Thursday. That would only give me 2 days.
Did you say it had to be done? I mean, there's a dead stop, or it's just a guideline?
It's
We could
based
do
on.
it in July.
Yeah, you could do it in July. I've had mine done in.
There's no
I've had
rush.
mine done in July. I've had
Okay.
mine done in September. I've had mine done at a special. I can't tell you, and I've had mine done by May 1st. It really depends on, the goal here is that it's a public process. I hate to say it that way, it's a public process.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right. We're going to give you a good
All right, so
grade.
that doesn't
Well, you
push
never
us
know.
Too
Yeah.
hard
Everyone's
to
gonna give you a good grade.
get it done by then.
Right, and I think that the other thing too that's important is, I don't even know how to say this, but if I'm not doing something you don't think is good, come and see me and tell me. I mean, I've had some of you already come and see me and tell me, so it is what it is. My goal is to either push back or to say, okay, let me work on that. And it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't expect to be perfect.
Is there electronic format?
Yes,
to
I can
this?
get you that. Yep.
Okay, yeah, if you could email that, because I think just typing for me is easier, and you don't want my physical handwriting. That's
You need to use AI to write it.
Well, I have to tell you that
AI,
a lot of that is
tell
going on right
secrets.
now.
Don't tell
Don't
secrets.
tell secrets. There's a lot of that going on, Dr. Sears.
Don't you wish it was there when you were writing your
Yeah,
dissertation?
I do. Yes, I do.
So I wonder if we should wait until the June 17th meeting where we've had a chance to look at the MASC website, had a chance to look at this, have a chance to maybe even look at some other evaluations that have been done in the past.
Yes.
To
is
complete-
Actually, is any of Dr. Baeta's previous evaluations available for?
Yeah, so
review?
so what you have is the summation. I was not graded because I did a 2-year. So what you have is a summation of the 2 years that was presented last June to the school committee, but I'm on the summative, so I'm on the 2 years of getting a formal, full evaluation.
Okay.
Versus Ms. Miller will come in as a first-year superintendent and work on a 1, a 1, or a 1, yeah, a 1, a 1, a 1.
Be good to get our evaluation squared away so that when Ms. Miller does come in, we'll have like a template of how to do it, so it'll be easier, because her contract will come up quick also for reevaluation.
Right.
And AI gets better every month.
So there we go, so she's going to get a great evaluation.
Or should I say A1 instead of?
Yeah.
That's right, yes, A1. Would June 27th be feasible then to get your individual evaluations to me?
Oh, June 27th, yeah.
Yeah, June 27th is almost 6 full weeks. Is that enough time?
I think so, yes.
Okay. And then I can put the summation together. That gives me plenty of time to do it, and we can discuss it at the July 22nd meeting that we've scheduled.
Perfect.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes, and Dr. Baeta can go on his vacation.
Okay. All right. Did emails due June 27th. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Contract negotiation tentative agreements?
Madam Chair, through you, to the full committee, we have ratified by each of the following associations, and I'll go one by one. There's a memorandum of agreement pending school committee approval tonight with the School Administrative Assistants Association. That contract, hitting high points, takes an outdated and confusing salary table and replaces it with a streamlined and more regionally competitive 12-step salary scale. With that, as important, is a 2.5% increase in years 2 and year 3. It now also takes everything between steps and makes it equal, so there's no big steps at any point. It's just very consistent. In terms of any other financials, the major financial increase was $100 in the years of service categories. We outlined the sick bank policy to not be involved in the school committee for regulation, but to be as appointed by the superintendent. We clarified the sick leave buyback language on when you earn the days, and because these are July 1st employees, automatically they earn them on that date. And we were able to negotiate one administrative assistant to the deputy superintendent, assistant superintendent, out of the union, making that a
employment. This is this is a 3-year contract, and they have ratified it. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Powers, who was your representative with the administrative assistance contract.
So I will say that in previous years, the administrative assistants had a contract that maybe wasn't that equitable for them, since the increase that they got in previous contracts years ago did not keep up with the cost of health care. And so they end up with a net loss at the end of their contract period. And so this contract here created a new salary grid, which I can say we went over again and again, and our business manager did a great job of just redoing it over and over. But it is equitable throughout for new staff coming in, for longevity, for the middle-of-the-road staff who maybe haven't been here for the longest time. Everyone's getting an equitable pay raise, and I would ask that you guys approve it. It was hard fought, and I think it was well done. And I want to thank the union, the administrative negotiators, and the negotiators from the administrative team for helping me to produce this. Wouldn't have been able to do it, obviously, without you, and you guys really did an amazing job, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen. So it's the recommendation of the team to vote to accept this 3-year agreement.
Any discussion?
I make a motion to approve the administrative assistance contract, and I would need
I'll second that.
don't forget that.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Motion has been carried 4-0. Next.
Thank you. Madam Chair, through you to the membership, the Stoughton Chapter Local 362, Council 93, AFL-CIO, locally known as our custodian and maintenance professionals, has also come and ratified a 3-year agreement that is also grounded on the big picture of an outdated salary scale that becomes more competitive for us, streamlined, and also moves a probationary period for new hires from 6 months to 9 months. And also a big support for us is that the technicians, the IT technicians, are no longer in that union. They are now individual contract personnel. Again, you'll see with this one that some of the major changes that you have that overall has an impact is really supporting having some folks in each of the team teaching, and then seniors having a little bit more, if you will, communication and accountability for the work being done by having a small stipend. The use of up to 6 vacation days as singular days throughout the year. The paid holidays, they added President's Day. Summer vacation break, they're working 7 to 3. So there's a benefit, but that's also one of the worst times to work because of the heat in our buildings, and it's also the heaviest load besides snow days. And their pay scale makes us a lot more competitive. We now have a differential for night time, and the raises are also fixed at 2.5% for each of years 2 and years 3. Just like the first group, this was a wonderful group to work with, and a lot of compromise by both sides. And Ms. Weiss, the former school committee member, is the one who did the final crossings and T's and dotted and I's, so on her behalf, I would ask for your support.
Any questions for the superintendent?
Can I have a motion to approve the custodians union contract? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, take a roll call vote. Aye.
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 Motion's been carried 4-0. And then finally?
And finally, this is a food services, also now known as the Stoughton Food Services Association. This was an association that belonged to a third party. They withdrew from that party over a year ago now and have been an independent just working off of that 3-year contract. So that contract ends this June 30th, so that you know. Going forward, they have a 3-year contract that is completely redone in terms of preamble, recognition, seniority language, very, very consistent with all of our unions for the record, so nothing that's out of reality, if you will. But things like making sure that they're recognized if they work overtime, they're paid for overtime, that type of stuff. If they have to come back to open up a kitchen, they're compensated for that for a night event. Uniforms, they have 4 paid holidays, an updated wage scale, which I'll go over and again, some clear language that they belong to a pension system that really wasn't even in their contract, even though they always have. Up to 10 hours of professional development, which is a really good thing for us, both sides. We've added longevity at years 5 through 10 at $500, 11 through 20 at 1,021 years of service, very consistent with some of the other organizations, and in some cases a little less. And then just clarifying language around if they get jury duty, military, all of that, mandatory meetings they get compensated for because they're hourly employees. And then delayed openings. And last but not least, their grid. Their grid is now 1 through 12, so you'll see consistent language in these three. The money is different, but it is consistency. There's 12 steps in the grid. There's 2.5 between the steps, so that's very consistent. And then a 2.5 in each of the following 2 years. And they have ratified. You will be the first to sign it here, but we ask that you show. I will tell you, I know that Matt has spoken to you, Mr. Colantonio, earlier. This was a real strong feeling of equity, and I want to thank Chris, who was part of that team, on just really trying to recognize the big things that we needed to do. And as you know, this is not funded by operations. This is funded through food services, which mostly is compensated through federal and state funds. So we can hopefully fill some positions going into the future.
Yes. So if I may add to that, there were significant inequities. This is a group that had not been well cared for in the negotiation process in the past, and that was blatantly evident with some of the omissions that are taken for granted in other contracts that we see across the district. I really want to commend the participating administrators because they were unbelievably open and supportive in negotiations. It was not a, I'll show you one card at a time. It was a, no, you really should be asking for this, and here is why. So there was a lot of education that happened in those meetings, and the cafeteria workers were extremely grateful for that, including Heidi giving retirement savings advice to them when we started talking about pensions, which they wanted desperately to go down that rabbit hole, and she made herself available at any time to answer those questions because that had never been done for them before. So it really meant a lot to me to work on this particular contract and to get it to a place where I can fully recommend it. It will address some of these severe inequities that this particular group has experienced. There are more defined roles and job duties that were not in place before, so it helps to bring some clarification. There are equitable steps for all now, which I think will be great for us moving forward. And it also will help to ensure our ability to attract and retain workers, especially in hard-to-fill part-time positions. So we are now comparable to area school districts, and in some places a little more competitive. So I think that will really help, and having that retained workforce will ensure continuity of services for our students.
Before you make that motion, if you go in that direction, Madam Chair, just through you, that this contract does have a little different language in the end. This contract is signed by you. It's witnessed and dated, and then the other party. So I will be turning this over to Matt to take it over to them to have it signed, and he'll be the witness of the signature after you sign tonight. Just want to enter that into the record.
Thank you for that clarification. Any discussion? In that case, is it okay if I make the motion?
Yes.
Woo! I get to make a motion. I would like to make a motion for the school committee to approve the Cafeteria Workers Association contract.
I'll second that.
All right. I'm sorry, I have to note that I made a motion. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 The vote, it carries 4-0. All right. Thank you. I feel like I should be giving away the pen I sign with every time. All right. Last thing on this section of the agenda is on the radar. I didn't know if you had any items for that.
I just have one general one so that everybody knows the town meeting is over as of Monday, 5 nights. Yes, Jen, you were there.
Good job, Jen.
And so we'll begin the process of finalizing the budget and any changes that we have to make and all of that over the next few weeks. I'll keep you in the loop of that so that you're hearing it directly, and then we will begin the work of the closing down one budget and transitioning to a new budget, which is the worst time of year for us. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
I did have some questions for you before we leave the superintendent's update. I have got some feedback from parents that some students are getting an exorbitant amount of homework, particularly in our elementary schools. Some even claim to have been getting over 2 hours of homework for elementary school students. Clearly a violation of the current homework policy, and I'm happy to say that that policy is in place for this, because they are also being denied recess when they have not completed over 2 hours of homework, mainly because their parents are telling them that's enough homework for an elementary school for one night. These parents at all grade levels, not just this grade level, but all grade levels, have said that they have asked for after-school help for their students and have been denied, giving alternatives of for high school flex block, or maybe coming in early, or even I've heard that some students, the only extra help that they were willing to give would be during recess. So I'd like to ask, I'm glad that our principal of the high school is here also, I believe there is a contractual obligation that that we pay our teachers to stay from at the high school level at least, 2:12 to 2:45-ish. And that pay also goes down to the middle school level, I believe. Ms. Crowley is gone. And also the elementary school level. I did have a chance to read the contract. I did see that in the contract. So I'm asking you to enforce the contract. I assume that the pay is being distributed for those hours. So I would like to have the policies enforced that state that elementary school students should not be denied recess, that extra help be given after school hours if requested. I also understand that there is no posting of when teachers are available after school. And sometimes they're not available after school. Sometimes they have obligations to the school and to the district that makes it so they can't. But there should be some hours posted somewhere that allows for students to be able to get extra help at the end of the day, because there's no flex block in middle school, and there's no flex block in elementary school. So I am asking you to please enforce the policies with these regards.
We'll do it, and I'll get back to you on next steps.
To the entire committee, please.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that a lot.
Okay.
Oh, and I might also ask, we have graduation on the 5th. Okay. And have you guys got your gowns? Or at least have you submitted?
I've submitted, yes.
You submitted, okay. Then from last year, we were hoping to be able to use those gowns for the Stoughton Academy, which hopefully everyone will be able to go to this. So is it possible to be able to keep those gowns so that we may also be able to make formal the Stoughton Academy's graduation? All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Ready to move on? Financial report and warrants. Any monthly operations and concerns with the financial impact?
None at this time.
Okay, perfect. Quarterly report still stands as April 15th, 2025. And on Armando's behalf, I have warrants to enter into the record. There's a list. So the first is warrant number 25-47S for the amount of $1,102,386. I have to remember how to read numbers here. Warrant number 2522 in the amount of $2,015,509.40. Warrant 25-46S for the amount of $300,254.46. Warrant 25-44S in the amount of $505,066.88. Warrant 2521 in the amount of $2,050,663.76. And finally, warrant 25-45S in the amount of $85,464.73. Any questions? Perfect. New business. We have a request for overnight out-of-state field trip for the Stoughton High School HOSA trip to Nashville, Tennessee. Julie, would you, just to put you on the spot there since you're sitting there warming a seat?
Sure. I don't have the materials in front of me, but they qualified for their competition, which is in Nashville. They qualified last year as well and went on the trip. It falls after school actually gets out. I think it's like the last day of school they leave. Mm-hmm. We have 3 students that qualified. They'd be traveling with one of our faculty members. They've already begun fundraising in anticipation that you may be approving this, and we would really appreciate your support.
So it's 4 students.
Oh, 4 students, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have 2 students, and you're going to have to help me with the names. I have Aniara Johnson, and last name is Onyeka. Trying to think how to pronounce the first name. I just want to get this right because I'm going to be listening to this name at some point at graduation.
Yes, you are.
Oh, thank you.
Kamsi
Definitely Nigerian.
Yokwa.
Well, I want to congratulate her, and will promise her publicly that I will practice her name and make sure that I know how to say it. And then Nina Gomes DaCosta and Christian Goran are part of the leadership program.
Yeah. My daughter participated last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The students raise all the funds, and then the parents pay whatever they are unable to raise. This represents zero cost to the school committee or the district, other than the faculty members' time, which was already under contract.
You're voting on it because it's an out-of-state travel.
Any questions for Ms. Miller or Dr. Baeta? Can I have a motion to approve the overnight out-of-state field trip request for the Stoughton High School hosts a trip to Nashville, Tennessee?
So moved.
Thank you. Second, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motion passes 4-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Good luck to them.
Yes.
They have fun.
And all their money.
Okay. Nearing the end here. So approval of minutes. I wanted to note that when it was requested that we follow the town charter, we did move the minutes to the front of the meeting as requested. However, it did require our guests and attendees, invited attendees, to sit through the minute amendment process. So I respectfully request that the committee consider moving it back to the end of the agenda, which was where it was in past practice.
All right, so we can't violate the charter. We have to follow the charter. We have to follow our own policies, and we have to follow the charter. If we want to move agenda items, it has to be a vote of the committee. It can't just be the chair that decides, I'm just going to move things. It's a vote of the committee to say, okay, because we have a bunch of people in here, why don't we move some items around so that we can get them out of here quickly. Everything we do is a group discussion and a group vote. We do it all together. There's nothing individual about this. So if items are going to be moved, if items are going to be changed, if things are going to be added, like times of when someone wants things to be done or how long someone thinks something should take. I don't know even how, I don't know when we got to that. But that all has to be a vote from the committee. And we can do that. That's fine. And for the most part, we have. We've always said, okay, we got people waiting. We're not going to make them sit here and wait. Let's move some agenda items. We'll do the minutes at the end. But it has to be a vote of the committee doing it together, not just one person saying that they want to make the change and so it's going to happen. So and then it's expected that it's a one meeting change. If you want to change the meeting agenda items out of order, then we have to vote on it again the next time, because we have a charter that says that things are supposed to be done in a certain way. And we have Robert's Rules of Order that we are expected to follow in the policies. The charter says we have to follow Robert's Rules. The policy says we have to follow Robert's Rules. Robert's Rules have a certain order of agenda items, and that's by make. So if we want to change the items, we decide as a group that we're going to move it around, not permanently. And if we want to put things, extra things in here, like, I don't know, happy items or district celebrations and whatever, I don't know, whatever else was added into here without a committee vote, then it needs to be voted in. And if you want to remove something like correspondence, because that's an item that was always in here, then again, it has to be from a vote. I would say that on these minutes, something is put in as per school committee policy BEDE. I have not found a BEDE. But I have found the charter 311-34, which gives order of business in the charter, and it says exactly how the agenda is supposed to be done. I don't mind changing agendas. I just want it to be in the public view, and I want it to be a school committee and not a one-person committee. It is by all of us. That's my spiel.
So how would you like to proceed from here?
I'd like to proceed by the charter. That's how I'd like to proceed, by the charter.
Is that the will of the committee?
No, it's the will of the charter. The charter and Robert's Rules of Order that we have to follow. We can't violate charter. We can change charter if we want. Dr. Bayetta, how long does it take to change charter?
2 years.
About 2 years to change the charter. We can do that. Anyone can do that. But we can't say, well, we're not going to follow the charter. We have to follow it. It's not that big of a deal. Just then the committee can say, okay, we have a bunch of people in here, but otherwise, anything that you want to change or do different in here, we decide. We decide. Go on, Dr. Bayetta, you have something to say.
I guess what I would advise the full committee on is to seek legal counsel's advice so that you can clear this up going forward.
You can tell legal counsel to look at the charter 311-34, and it says it clearly in there.
I'm not seeking where the he's your attorney. He's not my attorney.
I don't see a reason to put the cost up there.
Well, the only reason that I may suggest is the charter. For example, the select board meeting tonight, which they're supposed to follow the charter, they're not following the charter tonight. They've moved everything down.
If I was a select board member, I would say, let's follow the charter. I'm not. I'm a school committee member. So I say, let's follow the policies, the same policies that I'm asking you to hold our employees accountable for, I'm going to hold myself accountable for and say that I need to follow them too. And I expect the board to follow them as well. I don't expect policies to be violated. I don't expect open meeting law to be violated. I don't expect charter to be violated. Just do our job. It's not that hard. If it's done right, it's done well. So yeah, the agenda should be exactly how it is in the charter or in Robert's rules. We want to change it, then we make a motion, let's change this. I mean, it's the last chair did it like that too. If we want to change something, let's change it. You want to add something, you want to remove something, it has to be a vote. And I don't know where BEDE is. Didn't find one.
I'm sorry, I'm just struggling to figure out how to best move forward from this point.
I can give you the charter, 311-34.
I have the charter right here.
Then the
Thank you.
charter says exactly how the agenda is supposed to be set up. I mean, it might not be what you want, and that's why you can't move forward. But that's exactly how it's supposed to be in the charter. Or Robert's Rules also gives one, and it's fairly similar. It's actually less specific. Or you can look at the previous agendas.
According to your point, it needs to be exactly like the charter and not a simplified version according to Robert's Rules, correct?
I'm saying we need to follow the charter, and if we want to change something, like we want to remove or we want to add times, 650 time efficiency goal, or then it has to at least we can follow the charter and still put in what we need to put in. We can still put in that we can still vote to say, okay, well, we want time efficiency goals. We want to say that we need to be out of here by 8:30 because that's what time we want to leave. But it has to be a vote of the committee, not just one person that all of a sudden this got changed.
Just a question. I thought we had the agenda update approved of previous meetings before. Am I incorrect in that?
No, we never voted on it.
We hadn't voted on it.
It wouldn't matter anyway. We can't violate the charter. We can't vote to violate the charter.
Well, we have our own policy that does say for efficiency that we can.
Not in BEDE. I don't know where BEDE is.
I'm sorry, I'm going to see if I can pull this.
It's BEDE is what was stated.
I guess the only other clarifying question that I would have would be town. I don't know the last time that the town charter was reviewed for that. I guess that's irrelevant, but I would guess, is there...
2023 is the town charter, latest town charter.
So my question that I would have is, what's the state law say on what this should look like? A state law would supersede the town charter, and I don't know that.
I don't know that either, but I know what our charter says.
So that's a typo in the minutes. It should be BEDB.
BEDB. Okay, the superintendent conferring with the chair will arrange the order of items on the meetings, not change the agenda format, but the order of items in the meeting agenda so the committee can accomplish its business as expeditiously as possible. The committee will follow the order of business established by the agenda, except as it votes to rearrange the order for the convenience of visitors. So again, we can do what we want. We can add some things in here as long as the basic agenda format is per the charter. It's not hard.
All of the charter elements are in the agenda. I just want to clarify that. They are all there. Armando laid that out very clearly before.
No, he actually didn't, and they're out of order. And if they want to be out of order, then we have to vote as a committee. It's not one person's decision. Everything is a committee decision, not one person.
Understood.
Good, I'm glad.
Understood.
I'm glad it's understood. I really am, because I feel like I've been saying this over and over, and I've been talking to a wall.
Karen, is there something specific in the agenda that's affecting this? Just so that I understand better, because I guess I come from a corporate world that's not Robert Rules of Order, so agenda is just a talking points for the.
Call me a rules girl.
What?
Call me a rules girl.
No,
I just
want specifically on what page, on what line item that's an issue that could get us into. That's a violation of the charter.
The charter lays out how the town is supposed to operate. And it lays out some things specifically and some things not specifically. Okay. And there is a whole section called Section 311 that deals with school committee. Mm-hmm. And we are expected as a school committee to follow that.
But I'm asking like kind of specifically on this that you could point out to me that is a violation, just so I can understand it.
The minutes. They have the minutes. Hold on. Let me get the charter. Actually, Chris has the charters, like she said, so she can find it, the agenda and how it's supposed to be set up in there. Now, if you want to add, if somebody in here says, you know what, I would like to change the time.
Well, I just, for clarification purposes.
I am trying to answer your question.
Yeah, I know, but you said approval of minutes, it's supposed to be at the top, right? Is what you're saying.
So it's unfinished business before new business.
Okay.
It's Robert's Rules of Order are meant to just keep things orderly. That's what it's meant to do. And the charter is set forth so that things are done in a certain way.
So
and I'm not violating them.
Minutes was put towards the end for efficiency purposes.
Then we would have to vote on that.
Every single meeting we have to vote.
Every single meeting. That's the way okay. That's the way it says in there. That if you're going to change it, then it needs to be voted on.
All right, that makes sense. Was there anything else besides that was moved that?
Well, I don't know these time efficiencies. I don't remember ever voting to put time limits on anything that we discuss. I don't remember saying that we would only get 15 minutes for student advisories or public comment so I don't remember putting that in there. District celebrations, that's new. And correspondence was removed. And
Correspondence is still in there. I read 2 letters today that we received.
It used to have its own spot inside here. And this all got changed, and it was never brought forth as a school committee. one person or maybe two people, I don't know, changed this. Maybe 4 people and I don't know changed
Karen,
it because
you're
this
moving
happens.
too fast from one subject to the next for me. I'm sorry. Okay, so times on here weren't on here previously, so those were put in to let people know of when to
Be here so they could speak or address certain agenda
yeah.
items.
I mean, we're way off right now. Yeah. So probably it's not necessary, even accurate, to put.
Well, we put
That's
in several places that it's.
Who was we?
It's,
You said we put in several places?
Armando and I
You
put
two
in
put in.
several places on the agenda to clarify that these are simply estimates.
Okay.
But we never voted to put estimated times in here.
You are
and
correct.
Armando chose to do that together.
You are correct.
Okay, so we have 2 things. We have the meeting minutes are supposed to be up front, and we have to, if we want to push those back, we have to vote on that. The second thing is the timing is we need to vote, and would we need to vote every week to include that, or would we have to vote? Could we just vote now and have it on forever?
That is something extra that's being put in there that we never voted to put in.
But
I
yeah,
don't
I'm asking
know.
Karen, just for
I
my
understood.
education.
I understood.
If let's
You
just
got to
we all
give me a
agree-
chance. You got to give me a chance to answer it.
Okay.
I mean, you cut me off. So the extra things that were put in here, we might be able to put them in and say, in perpetuity, we are going to put times in here, but we don't have to follow them. And they might be right and they might not be right. But everybody agrees that we're going to put it in there.
Okay, so.
And that's not excluded. So, I mean, John is our policy guy, so I assume that he might have something to say on adding things to agendas.
Well, let's look at like things specifically. So we're looking at adding times. You don't know if we decided at this moment to vote to add times for perpetuity, if that's legal or not. You don't know, or you do?
I don't know, right.
Don't know. Okay, so that's something we'd want to discuss with the lawyer for.
Sure.
Okay. So we have times added, and then there's taking out what? The communications?
Correspondence.
Correspondence.
Reading of communications.
That's correspondence, is correspondence.
Right. I'm happy to change the wording back to correspondence.
Oh, well, thanks, I'm
If
glad.
that is your preference, I will call it whatever you want.
Actually, the charter says communication.
Then it can be communication, because it's formally was in the space of where it is.
I do think, just for clarification purposes, I
Pointing out
really,
that they put it up there.
I don't think anybody on a town charter review has actually looked at this, number one. I'm just putting it out there. Number two, it does say business shall be as follows. It doesn't say must be as follows. So I would have a couple of points of clarification. We do not have anything except for 2 public hearings a year. One for school choice, of which we have to do a meeting next week because we had to post it for 7 days, and 2 for the budget. Those are really the only 2 public hearings that we have as a requirement, unless there was a public hearing requested of the school committee by another party, which can happen. So hearings in general would not be happening, and any hearings that had to do with staffing would be an executive session. My only concern of this is in some ways a little bit of what happened tonight. So think of it. We had a principal and a teacher sitting here to just talk about the civics until 9 o'clock, 8:45. And I would have liked to see all of that move to the front, and then the committee can do its business, especially when it comes to kids. There is nothing on here that says until superintendent's report and recommendations, where I guess I could say to you folks, hey, I'm going to bring in the Hanson School under superintendent's report to do their presentation, because there's nothing on that list that says anything about a presentation from anybody. Reading of communications is not the same thing as a presentation on data or any of that stuff. So I'm not choosing a side here. I'm just simply saying I don't really think that this has been, and I'm using the word shall, and I'm not one to really stick to words, as you well know, but there are certain sections here. For example, there's nothing here around student representative. Why? Because I don't believe we had student representation until after education reform, which was in 1993. So it could be that this is that old. So I think that I'm asking for your consideration to provide this to your legal counsel. He will provide something in writing to you, and then you can have your debate and discussion around what's in the best interest. Because I see somebody who could say, well, Joe, there's no student representation, so why are we doing that? Well, because we think it's good. That's why we do it.
Not because we think it's good. It's because that's mandated by law.
It is, but not,
Not in the town charter.
but not in the town charter.
Right,
So-
it's not in the town charter, but
so-
it is mandated, so it does have to be in there.
Right, and I think that some of this language that we're using here is, I would call it outdated language, because typically.
It's not up to us to update it, but we can make the changes as long as we make it as a committee.
Okay.
And if the lawyer is going to be emailed and he's going to give us, Mr. Emerson is going to give us feedback, I would ask that he give it to all of us.
I would ask that he formalize it in a written memo to the full school committee.
Absolutely.
And I would say, take a vote tonight authorizing the chair or myself to reach out with the question as it pertains to the format of the order of business for.
You don't need a vote for that. The chair can just do that.
Okay. Again, I don't want to overstep, so I'm putting that out there. I'm just trying to be clear.
The chair can absolutely do that.
Well, then I would think that that's what we should do. So.
But I am saying that even when we had our MASC meeting here, we follow charter, we follow Robert's rules, we follow our own policies, we follow contracts. There are lots of policies in lots of different places, and we need to follow them. And if we're doing it all as a group, and not just one or two, and if we're not violating open meeting laws, then we'll be okay.
Any other discussion points or comments?
So just to follow up on this,
Yes.
we're going to talk to our legal representative to assure that what we're doing is within the town charter and with state law.
Mhm.
And we can vote on that, clarify it, and put the agenda business. Excellent. Can we do that?
Yes.
I would like to have a
Would be
copy.
happy to do that.
I would like to have a copy of the email that you send to the lawyer.
So noted. All right. Any discussion, corrections around minutes? Karen, I think you've already noted one, and that was the...
BEDE?
Yes, it should be BEDB, which is understandable. B and E sound very similar in a recording.
Just for the sake of a quick note,
Mhm.
isn't it kind of crazy that we have policies in there by a letter code that makes absolutely no sense?
Well,
I mean, Jonathan, right? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been the guru of this, not only around here, but another. It is the craziest thing. The number system is nuts. I never get it.
We just go with it.
Sorry, I had to say that out loud.
Yeah, no.
You're in education and you think, so many of those.
We do love our acronyms, but
Yeah.
these don't really make sense.
No.
Like, I can't say that the B stands for something that actually makes sense to me.
Right.
No, it just goes through the alphabet, A through F, I believe we are. And then each subgroup
So that's the one amendment.
has its own.
So can I make a motion to accept the minutes?
Well, are there any other amendments to the minutes?
No.
And there's a motion on the table.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call vote to accept the minutes as amended.
Aye.
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 Motion's carried 4-0. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Can I have just a clarification that you do have a special meeting next week, a public hearing?
Yes, thank you for that.
And if it's okay, we do have a response, level 3 grievance coming to you. Same group as last time, same type of topic, but you need to vote if you're going to move it on or change your outcome. So there would be 2 items on that meeting. There'd be an executive session for the purposes of a level 3 grievance, and there'd be the public hearing on school choice. Those would be the only 2 items on the agenda. So my recommendation would be start at 6 o'clock. You could potentially be done by 6:30.
Not that we're worried about time.
Just special meeting, that's why. Only note it's an added meeting for the month because of, we missed the calendar date.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Upcoming dates of note, that should be in the list. Thank you for that. We do have a special school committee meeting that will be held here at 31 Pierce Street at the administrative offices, starting at, if it's amenable to the committee, 6 p.m. for executive session with a public hearing to start at 6:30.
I think you can go at 6:15.
6:15?
Yeah.
All right.
And you do, and worst comes to worst, if you're not done with the executive session, you have to come out of it, do the
Yep.
public hearing,
And then go back. Okay.
So that's the reason. Just in
What's
case
the
it's
date?
sure.
Okay.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah. So that's the 27th.
Correct.
6 p.m. and 6:15 for the public hearing for anyone who would like to come and voice an opinion about school choice.
Did you want to mention your upcoming date of note?
I was about to do that, but if you'd like to go ahead.
No, you had mentioned a motion to adjourn.
No,
I wanted
yeah.
to make sure you got yourself Sharks Theater in this.
I would actually like to bring this one up, if I might discuss.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The South School Sharks are putting on a theater production tomorrow night, May 21st at 6 p.m. My daughter is going to be in it. She's been working really hard. They've been doing 12-hour days at school. I drop her off at 7:30 in the morning and pick her up at 7 p.m. Love it. Got so excited she got to stay at school till 7 p.m.
It's great for Mom, too.
Yeah, it's been discounted childcare for me. It's been great. The teachers have been doing an amazing job. High energy, wonderful group. I am really excited to see it. It's $3 to go and see the program. I urge everyone to go if they have the time to go do it.
Sounds great. Thank you for that. I do need to note that the next regular meeting of the school committee will be here at the administrative offices on June 17th, 2025, starting at 6 p.m. With that being said, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconds.
Any
Happy birthday,
discussion?
Billy.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Aye.
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We adjourn at 9:46
9:46.
p.m.
My stuff away.